Eiji faced the taunts of his friends, their voices urging him onward. Despite his hesitation, a surge of defiant resolve coursed through him. "All right," he thought, steeling himself, "here I come." With a focused grimace, Eiji deftly struck the target, earning cheers from his companions. The night progressed with a celebratory atmosphere, but soon, Eiji found himself facing an unknown penalty, chosen by fate's cruel hand. The phone screen displayed his fate. Reveal a secret, his friends, buzzing with eager anticipation, pressed him for the juicy details. Eiji squirmed under their collective gaze, a wave of profound discomfort washing over him as he prepared to confess. A mortified Eiji contorted his face in profound embarrassment as the truth escaped him. His friends exchanged stunned glances, an uncomfortable silence hanging heavy in the air. "You're really a virgin," they eventually whispered, as the calendar ominously marked October 23rd, Sunday. Lying in solitude, Eiji scrolled through his phone, a bittersweet smile gracing his lips as his friends' messages confirmed his ongoing romantic misfortunes. A sudden thought propelled him to his feet, only for his hopes to shatter upon finding his vacation fund utterly depleted. With a hopeful smile, Eiji carefully dropped a 500 yen coin into his piggy bank, a tangible step towards a dream vacation with a future girlfriend. He cradled the container, a silent promise held within its increasing weight, before finally retiring for the night. The calendar flipped to October 24th, Monday. Eiji stirred, the blare of his alarm echoing in the quiet room. A peculiar lightness filled him, a stark contrast to his usual hangover. Then, his eyes widened in shock, a silent gasp escaping his lips as he realized he wasn't alone. "Morning, Eiji-kun," the stunning woman beside him murmured, her smile radiant. Eiji's mind reeled, a torrent of questions flooding his thoughts. "I'm naked." He silently screamed, his grasp on the sheet tightening, the inexplicable situation overwhelming him. She turned, her bare backside exposed, apologizing for being fidgety. Eiji's mind raced, a jumble of fuzzy memories from the previous night's drinks failing to coalesce. "What is this? What's going on?" he questioned, his voice a bewildered whisper amidst the rising panic. Her eyes welled with tears as she accused him. "You were the one who asked me out." Eiji stammered, attempting to dismiss it as a joke, but her hurt escalated into a sharp, pointed question about his anger over their unconsummated night. His denial felt hollow. Eiji tried to soothe her, complimenting her beauty and promising to take things slow. Her blush deepened, but his sudden realization of impending class made him bolt from the bed, apologizing as he dressed, pledging to get to know her properly. A soft kiss on the cheek, a stolen shirt, and then she was gone, leaving Eiji in a daze. He watched her figure disappear down the hallway, the morning's surreal events swirling in his mind, unsure if he just experienced a dream or a waking fantasy. What on earth was that all about? Eiji wondered, piecing together fragments of his memory. He recalled drinking with friends, taking the last train, but the beautiful Yukimura Kyuka, a university acquaintance now seemingly his girlfriend, remained a bewildering enigma. He remembered nothing. Burying his face in the borrowed shirt, Eiji inhaled her scent, dismissing his fragmented memories. He had a girlfriend, a beautiful one at that, and that was all that mattered. Yet, a trace of disappointment lingered as he realized, despite everything, he was still a virgin. Lost in thoughts of Kyuka, a blissful reverie, Eiji walked, only to collide abruptly with a man. His gaze immediately fixated on the stranger's bandaged, bruised eye, a sudden chill replacing his earlier warmth. The intimidating man, Norwaki, the mad dog, loomed over Eiji, his bandaged eye adding to his formidable presence. Eiji's apologies tumbled out, a frantic whisper, as Norwaki's boisterous greeting and reach towards him sent shivers down his spine. Norwaki, dismissive of his bandaged eye, assured Eiji everything was fine, even offering his assistance. Eiji, still bewildered, watched him walk away. Later, he recounted the strange encounter to Koshiwagi, trying to make sense of the mad dog's unexpected friendliness. Koshiwagi's words struck Eiji like a physical blow. You did that to his eye? Eiji's mind reeled, grappling with the impossible notion that he, a timid student, could have inflicted such an injury on the infamous Norwaki. A throbbing headache intensified his confusion. Koshiwagi recounted a heroic tale. Eiji, a real man, had defended Kyuka from Norwaki's advances, even fighting him off, securing her affection in the process. Eiji listened, his face a mask of utter bewilderment, the story entirely alien to his own missing memories. Amidst playful questions about his new relationship, Eiji pressed for details about the fight. Koshiwagi confidently stated it happened 3 days ago, causing Eiji's brow to furrow in deepening confusion. Isn't today the 24th of October, he muttered, a sense of unease creeping in. Today's the 27th, Koshiwagi clarified, his tone laced with concern. Eiji's world tilted. His eyes, wide with sudden terror, stared at the glaring date, October 27th, Thursday. 3 entire days had vanished from his memory. His phone confirmed the terrifying truth, October 27th. Eiji's mind raced, struggling to reconcile Monday with Thursday. I'm missing 3 days worth of memories, he realized with chilling clarity, a profound sense of emptiness filling the void where his past should have been. Eiji grappled with the terrifying possibilities, amnesia, or perhaps a latent power to manipulate time, triggered by the very drink in his hand. A chilling thought, with this superpower, my destiny is to battle evil villains. Behind him, a shadowy presence lingered, unseen. A sharp gasp escaped Eiji as a girl suddenly materialized before him, causing him to recoil in surprise. He quickly composed himself, muttering an apology, realizing with a jolt that this silent, dark-haired figure often shared his walking path. Shinmiji Rei, her choker prominent, fixed Eiji with a chilling gaze. "Do you have any business with me?" she asked, her voice devoid of emotion. Eiji fumbled with his phone, a knot forming in his stomach as she slowly, deliberately, closed the distance between them. Her piercing gaze seemed to bore into Eiji, as he suddenly recalled her as the depressing school idol, always alone, never speaking. With an awkward smile, he excused himself, clutching the mysterious can, eager to escape her unsettling presence. "It's the normal Eiji," she declared, halting his retreat. Eiji froze, utterly taken aback. 3 ghostly images of himself flickered, embodying his confusion. What does she mean by normal, he wondered, astonished that this silent girl had spoken at all. Later, in class, Eiji's thoughts drifted back to Rei, a nagging feeling that she had something crucial to say. He dismissed it, convincing himself everything seems fine, yet a new message from Kyuko on his phone instantly reignited his confusion, for he had no memory of exchanging numbers. Eiji blushed, a wave of pure elation washing over him as he read Kyuko's sweet message inviting him home. Later, walking with friends, their casual talk about his new relationship and altered plans for their drinking party served as a stark reminder of his changed world. A friend's pointed remarks about his company and the uncomfortable glances from the girls who left the last time when his true nature was revealed hinted at a darker truth. Eiji's profile remained stoic, a troubled look betraying the weight of his real secret. Kyuko's joyful presence instantly brightened Eiji's mood as she enthusiastically greeted him. They walked, her suggestion of food a welcome distraction, and Eiji found himself captivated by the fragrant osmanthus blooms, a sweet counterpoint to his earlier anxieties. Kyuko's confident smile radiated as she reminded him there was no problem with her. "Really my girlfriend," Eiji mused, still somewhat dazed by her forwardness. Then, her casual question about staying over again left him speechless, a blush creeping up his neck. In the supermarket, Kyuko casually selected toiletries, signaling her intent for the night. Eiji watched, a mix of excitement and nerves building, until they reached an aisle dedicated to protection. His eyes widened, a nervous gulp catching in his throat. With a knowing grin, Kyuko urged him to buy protection. Completely flustering Eiji, he stammered, insisting they weren't at that stage yet, his face burning crimson. Kyuko burst into uncontrollable laughter, doubling over at his innocent, mortified reaction. In the cafe, Kyuko explained her affection for Eiji, citing his unexpected coolness and heroic act of saving her. She described him as a mystery man, an enigma, yet surprisingly reliable. Eiji listened, bewildered. "Am I really that person?" he wondered. "Look up," Kyuko playfully demanded, her eyes sparkling. "You're not allowed to take your eyes off me," Eiji, 20 years old and utterly smitten, offered a comical expression of mock obedience, completely under her spell. Walking hand in hand, Eiji basked in the warmth of the happiest day of his life. Kyuko suggested grabbing drinks, and Eiji, with a playful jab about repeating past events, imagined a future forever with her, a wistful smile on his face as she laughed. Kyuko's sweet smile was infectious, but Eiji's expression turned serious. "There's something I have to tell you," he began, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air, a shadow of confusion crossing Kyuko's face. Kyuko playfully silenced him, declaring it not the right time. With a smile, she promised to listen another day, reassuring him with her presence, inadvertently holding back the truth Eiji was about to reveal. A camera lens, sharp and unblinking, adjusted with a precise click, its eye poised to capture whatever drama unfolded next. Itsusanhao Soku, a freelance reporter with a cigarette dangling from his lips, confronted Eiji presenting his card. He sought an interview, but Eiji, sensing an unwelcome intrusion, politely declined. Kyuko watching with growing apprehension, the reporter pressed on, probing Eiji's living situation, his family, and a recent fight where injuries were sustained. As a journalist, he felt compelled to revisit a 15-year-old incident, his persistent questions casting a heavy, unsettling pall over Eiji. The reporter, pleading, refused to back down. Kyuko stepped forward protectively, but his pointed question about her being Eiji's girlfriend, followed by a menacing whisper about a secret Eiji hadn't yet revealed to her, left them both deeply unsettled. Kyuko, distraught, urged Eiji to calm himself, but it was too late. Eiji, eyes wild with panic, lunged at the reporter, a desperate "Stop it, don't say it." Torn from his throat, his violent outburst witnessed by a horrified Kyuko. The reporter's bandaged eye seemed to gleam. As Eiji's hand tightened around the reporter's throat, a desperate plea in his eyes, the man delivered the devastating blow. "You are ... the son of a serial killer," he uttered, the words exploding into the air like a blinding flash, shattering Eiji's world. The reporter laid bare the gruesome truth. Eiji's father was Lines, the serial killer responsible for the Lines incident, where university girls vanished, only to be found later, their bodies mangled. Eiji's head hung low, crushed by the monstrous legacy. The reporter's words were poison, accusing Eiji of selfishness for hiding his past from Kyuko, shattering any hope for ordinary happiness. He repeated the cruel truth, the son of a serial killer, his smile sinister, as Eiji absorbed the devastating blow. Kyuko stood silent, averted. Eiji's eyes fell upon a door defaced with hateful graffiti, a stark mirror of his fears. With a forced, hollow smile, he turned to Kyuko, offering a strained apology, and announced his departure, a desperate attempt to shield her. "Hey, you," Kyuko's voice cut through the tension, confronting the reporter. Her unwavering gaze met his as she defiantly declared that Eiji's father's actions had absolutely nothing to do with Eiji-kun. Eiji stared, utterly stunned by her passionate defense. Kyuka's fury escalated, lambasting the reporter for his unfairness, his lies, and his ambush. She condemned his actions as assault, both physical and verbal, before emphatically dismissing him, her voice ringing with protective indignation. Why? Eiji asked, tears welling. Kyuka, with gentle certainty, revealed she already knew his dark past from university rumors, but none of it mattered. Your father is your father, she stated, and you are you. Her words were a balm to his shattered soul. Kyuka's radiant smile affirmed his worth, her acceptance a profound gift. Eiji, overwhelmed, felt a tear trace a path down his cheek. Let's go home, she urged, but Eiji lingered, his heart swelling with an unfamiliar blend of relief and sorrow. Weird, he mumbled. Head bowed, Eiji wrestled with his tears, calling himself lame for such vulnerability. Kyuka watched silently as he forced a strained smile, reminding himself that winners were happy, a fragile mask against the overwhelming emotions within. Kyuka enveloped Eiji in a warm embrace, allowing his tears to flow. She admitted he was enigmatic, but vowed to never let him go. I love kissing, she declared, promising many kisses, yet playfully drawing a line, solidifying their bond with tenderness and humor. October 28th, Friday, Eiji arrived home to the familiar warmth of his parents' greetings. His father immediately inquired about a girlfriend, his mother's disbelief giving way to eager questions about her cuteness, blissfully unaware of the storm Eiji had just weathered. His mother reminisced fondly, while his father noted Kyuka's Miss Campus status. Eiji then revealed Kyuka knew his secret and still desired him, eliciting his mother's heartfelt approval. His father, however, remained thoughtfully silent, observing his son with a hint of concern. Eiji's father, with a solemn expression, revealed a shattering truth. That man isn't my father. Eiji's world tilted. Meanwhile, elsewhere, an elderly woman inquired about her sis, to which a boy replied, same old. Eiji, though comforting his mother, felt a deep, unspoken unease. On October 29th, Saturday, Eiji walked purposefully through the university halls, his gaze fixed on the imposing buildings. He found Rei, her intense gaze meeting his, a silent challenge passing between them, hinting at a truth yet to be unearthed. Rei spoke cryptically of stagnant pools and unseen depths, warning Eiji that averted gazes only postpone the inevitable. When the dam bursts, she foretold, the water will overflow. She urged him to grasp his fate, never letting go. You're actually pretty chatty, Eiji remarked, surprised. Rei, unfazed, explained she only spoke when necessary, dismissing frivolous conversation. Eiji, bewildered by her profound yet cryptic pronouncements, could only wonder, what was that? Rei's words echoed like a death knell. You can never escape being the son of the serial killer, Hanoi Makoto. She warned him that his past would inevitably resurface, urging him to face it before it was too late. Eiji walked away, haunted by her prophecy, the city lights a blur. November 1st, Tuesday, below a gridlock bridge, Detective Momoi worked meticulously at a grim crime scene, her exhaustion evident in her tired yet resolute expression. She gave a weary thumbs up, signaling the grim reality of her daily life. Momoi reeled in disgust at the horrific scene, barely containing her nausea as she warned against contaminating the evidence. Her colleague, grim-faced, commented on the unprecedented brutality of the torture wounds, wondering aloud if she would ever grow accustomed to such horrors. A fly buzzed ominously, a prelude to the horrifying sight of a female corpse. Mutilated and entwined with grotesque, organic tendrils, the body lay amidst swirling shadows, a testament to unimaginable torment. Momoi fled the scene, her face contorted in distress, disappearing to vomit. Her colleagues watched, surprised by her rare display of revulsion, as she knelt by the riverbank, the weight of the gruesome discovery proving too much to bear. The gruesome scene mirrored an older nightmare. It's exactly like 15 years ago, a chilling thought echoed. Across the glittering night city, a dark shadow loomed, whispering and terrifying truth. Ali's back. The past had returned to haunt them. The chronicle of terror begins with Makoto Hachinoi, the serial killer known as Lines. His descent into darkness started at just 14, eventually leading to a spree of brutal murders 15 years ago. Though he evaded capture for a time, his legacy ended in a pyre of his own making, leaving the world haunted by the shadow of a monster who refused to be caught alive. The victims of Lines suffered unimaginable cruelty, their bodies bearing the signature of a sadist who turned torture into an art form. From the mountains where their broken remains were found to the hideout where he was finally cornered, the sheer depravity of his methods left a stain on the collective consciousness that time could not erase. In his final moments, Lines committed suicide by self-immolation, leaving behind a chilling digital epitaph. I'll kill again, even in death. The demon maintained his grip on the world's fear. 15 years later, the mystery of his message persists, and an unconfirmed truth begins to emerge from the ashes of his horrific crimes. The world is shocked by the revelation that the serial killer had a son, Eiji Urashima. While his father's sins loom like a curse, Eiji remains blissfully unaware, waking up in a mundane apartment to the sound of a ringing doorbell. He is the child of a demon, yet he yawns into the morning, oblivious to the accursed fate that is already beginning to tighten its grip. Eiji is jolted from sleep by the exuberant arrival of Kyuka, who greets him with a warmth that contrasts sharply with his own grogginess. Her affectionate embrace and claims of a promised date leave him reeling in confusion. He searches his hazy memory for a commitment he doesn't recall making, unsettled by the cheerful certainty in her eyes. Confronted with proof of their plans on her phone, Eiji can only offer a humble apology for his lapse in memory. He tries to make amends by promising her a sushi dinner, desperate to play the part of an attentive boyfriend despite the growing hole in his recollection. Kyuka's enthusiastic acceptance briefly masks the unease bubbling beneath the surface of his everyday life. As he prepares for the date, Eiji is struck by the strangeness of the situation. He has no memory of the promise, nor of the money he supposedly set aside. Searching his jacket, he is stunned when a 10,000 yen bill flutters to the floor. It's a small fortune he didn't know he had, a find that is as welcome as it is inexplicable. The discovery of 30,000 yen fills Eiji with a manic joy. He wonders if he hit a jackpot during a blackout he doesn't remember, but he chooses to ignore the warning signs in favor of the windfall. Those who enjoy life are winners, he tells himself, arm in arm with Kyuka, determined to drown his confusion in a day of reckless celebration. The date is a whirlwind of shopping and smiles, but the tension in Eiji's hands as he orders expensive champagne betrays his internal struggle. He is overcompensating, trying to buy a sense of normalcy with money he doesn't understand. Under the city lights, the facade of a happy couple is maintained, even as his hands continue to tremble. The illusion of a perfect evening is shattered by a single vibration of his phone. Kyuka's playful teasing about another girl vanishes when Eiji sees the screen. The message is a vitriolic curse, a reminder of his father's bloodline. Curse you. Spawn of the devil, lines, his blood runs cold, the ghost of his father reaching out to poison the present. Eiji attempts to downplay the hateful message, dismissing it as the work of an intense fanbase. Kyuka offers a sympathetic perspective, reminding him that children aren't responsible for their parents' actions. He wants to believe her, but the crash of a nearby base in his mind echoes the reality that the world rarely sees things so clearly. Memories of childhood brutality resurface, triggered by the weight of his lineage. He recalls a scene of violence of Ace used as a weapon against a bully who taunted him for being a murderer's son. Kyuka reaches out, her eyes filled with a terrifyingly deep understanding. Eiji-kun, I know how you feel, she says, offering a comfort that feels both tender and unsettling. Despite the shadow of his past, Eiji finds a fleeting sense of peace in the neon glow of the city. He recognizes the short end of the stick his life has dealt him, yet Kyuka's playful presence at karaoke makes him feel that things aren't entirely bad. For a moment, the weight of being LL's son is balanced by the simple joy of a girl's wink. The night deepens, and the atmosphere between them becomes charged with an undeniable intensity. A lingering gaze leads to a passionate kiss on the couch, the world outside fading away. Eiji is caught in a tide of emotion, his heart racing as the boundaries of their relationship shift towards something much more intimate and desperate. Swept up in the heat of the moment, Eiji finds himself grappling with a mixture of desire and a frantic need to stay composed. Keep calm. Gotta be cool, he commands himself, even as his senses are overwhelmed. The physical connection is a powerful distraction from his inner turmoil, yet the pressure of the moment feels almost suffocating. The air grows thick with anticipation as Kyuka begins to undress, revealing herself with a quiet confidence that leaves Eiji stunned. He watches, transfixed, his pulse thundering in his ears. The reality of the situation hits him with a physical force. This is happening, and the intensity of his attraction is matched only by the chaos in his mind. Eiji moves to join her on the bed, but a sudden wave of uncertainty makes him pause. He asks if this is truly okay, his voice tinged with a vulnerability he can't hide. Kyuka only giggles in response, her gaze soft and affectionate as she pulls him closer, seemingly oblivious to the storm of doubt raging inside him. The world tilts on its axis as Kyuka utters a single, devastating sentence. We already did it yesterday, didn't we? Eiji's mind goes blank, his eyes wide with a shock that borders on terror. The realization that a life-altering moment has been completely erased from his memory leaves him gasping for air. Horror and confusion take root as Eiji realizes he has lost his virginity to a memory he doesn't possess. Kyuka's tender admission that it was her first time to only heightens his sense of violation. I don't remember a single thing, he thinks, the terrifying void in his consciousness expanding to swallow the most intimate part of his life. Kyuka urges him to stay, telling him to just go with the flow, but Eiji is paralyzed. Her words about enjoying life feel like a cruel joke when he doesn't even know who is living it. He sits on the edge of the bed, a shell of a man, haunted by the invisible stranger who inhabited his body only 24 hours ago. Fumbling for an explanation, Eiji blames his memory loss on a few drinks, feeling a deep sense of shame. He is desperate to hide the fracturing of his mind from the woman he loves. Kyuka comforts him, mentioning the happy words he supposedly said to her, further confirming that another version of himself is out there, making promises he can keep. Wrapped in Kyuka's arms, Eiji feels the weight of a love intended for a man he doesn't recognize. Her claim that his words made her the happiest she's ever been is a knife to his heart. He offers a hollow apology, sinking into a profound sense of isolation, a prisoner in his own life, surrounded by a tenderness he didn't earn. Eiji lies awake in the dark, the warmth of the sleeping girl beside him feeling like a burden. He has no idea what words she is talking about, and the mystery of his missing time continues to gnaw at him. A sudden text message from Koshiwagi breaks the silence, a mundane request for help that anchors him to a world he is losing his grip on. He checks his phone and the blood drains from his face. It's not Sunday, it's Thursday night, for days, have vanished into a black hole of amnesia. Again ... double quotes he whispers, the realization of the massive time skip hitting him with the force of a physical blow. The other self hasn't just visited, he has taken over his life for days at a time. The transition is jarring. Eiji finds himself sitting on a bench in the cold light of Friday morning, his head buried in his hands. The city around him moves on, indifferent to the fact that he has just skipped for more days of his existence. He is exhausted, haunted by the voids in his memory that are becoming longer and more frequent. Panic begins to settle into a cold, hard certainty. He has lost 7 days in total, and the gaps are growing. It'll be bad, his gut warns him, the fear of the unknown finally outweighing his desire for normalcy. He stares out at the world, questioning where his reality ends and the nightmare begins, terrified of what he might find if he looks too closely. The enigmatic Shinmyoji appears once more, her presence a catalyst for the truth he's been avoiding. She speaks in riddles about the horizon, forcing him to consider the boundaries of his own consciousness. Eiji's frustration boils over as he demands to know why she keeps appearing, his desperation for answers clashing with her cryptic observations. Shinmyoji reveals that her previous conversation was a lie, a bait question to confirm his amnesia. She has used observation and deduction to trap him in his own web of confusion. Eiji is left speechless as she exposes the fracturing of his reality, her calm demeanor a sharp contrast to the mounting terror in his eyes. She delivers a chilling warning. Eiji is being manipulated and destroyed by the other Eiji. The line he must draw is the one between himself and the stranger within. He realizes, with a sickening jolt, that the changes he's noticed aren't just accidents. They are the footprints of a predator living inside his own mind. The truth is finally given a name, and it strikes Eiji with the force of a death sentence. You have dissociative identity disorder, Shinmyoji states plainly. The words echo in the silence of the park, stripping away his last shred of denial. He stares at her in wide-eyed horror, the reality of his double personality finally laid bare. Shinmyoji calls his other half B1 and warns him that doing nothing will lead to catastrophic consequences. Eiji tries to fight back, to play dumb, but his protests are weak. He is forced to confront the terrifying possibility that he is not the sole occupant of his body, and that the other Eiji might be someone he should truly fear. The analogy of stagnant water bursting a dam haunts Eiji as he returns to his apartment. The sight of his door covered in hateful messages is a brutal reminder of the world's perception of him, demon child. Go to hell, the paper screams, a physical manifestation of the curse his father left behind, and a warning of the darkness that is pulling inside him. Lying alive, Eiji finally begins to piece together the fragments of his fractured life. The amnesia, the strange behavior, the windfall of cash, it all points to the existence of B1. He realizes that the root of all the lies is his own mind, and the other self he once dismissed is a cold, hard reality he can no longer ignore. A desperate hope flickers within him. If B1 fought to protect Kyuka, maybe he isn't entirely evil. Eiji clings to the idea that they might be able to coexist, even get along. He decides to reach out, to try and bridge the gap between them by writing a letter to his bosom buddy other self, a final attempt to reclaim some control. With a trembling hand, Eiji begins his letter. Dear Urashima Eiji ... double quotes the act of writing to himself feels absurd yet necessary. Suddenly, a violent thud from the ceiling shatters his concentration. He recoils in terror, his eyes darting toward the source of the noise, wondering if the monster within is finally ready to make its presence known in the physical world. Investigating the hidden spaces of his home, Eiji's hands tremble as he finds a single 10,000 yen bill tucked away. The sight of the money, once a source of joy, is now a terrifying omen. He realizes his apartment is full of secrets he didn't put there, each one a clue to the life B1 has been building while he was away. The discovery of a hidden mountain of cash leaves Eiji breathless with terror. His eyes bulge as he stares at the stack of bills, the sheer amount testifying to the dangerous world B1 inhabits. He is forced to admit that he has no idea who his other self truly is or what horrific goals he might be pursuing under the cover of his own skin. The cycle of blood and greed is laid bare, a blood-stained baseball bat, a hoard of illicit cash, and the wide, terrified eye of a man losing his soul. Eiji realizes with sickening clarity that B1 is up to no good, and the chilling promise I'll kill again feels like it was spoken by his own lips. He has fallen into a blood-stained quagmire, and there may be no way out. Eiji stares in horror at 30 wads of yen, a total of 30 million, inexplicably stashed in his closet. He grapples with the terrifying realization that his alternate personality, Bai, is responsible, plunging him into a spiral of confusion and dread. Haunted by the sinister image of a grotesque, twisted object, Eiji walks through campus, a chilling question echoing in his mind. Just what on earth was my other personality, Bai, doing while my memory was blanked out? Eiji, visibly agitated, pulls down his cap, trying to mask his turmoil. His friend, Koshiwagi, playfully grabs him, teasing him about looking like a criminal, unaware of the deep anxiety beneath Eiji's forced smile. Koshiwagi, oblivious, presses Eiji about any recent dangerous events, then pivots to teasing him about a supposed girlfriend, Kyoka-chan, as Eiji struggles to maintain his composure and deny any involvement. Koshiwagi lightheartedly suggests a double date, but Kyoka, observing Eiji with a keen gaze, suspects something is amiss. She subtly probes, asking if anything unusual happened between specific dates, a question that stirs Eiji's unease. Kyoka scrutinizes Eiji, sensing a shift, but he insists he remembers nothing. Her keen perception, however, leads her to a chilling thought. We might not look the same, but if the one visiting is an entirely different person, wouldn't anyone notice? Eiji, struggling with his studies, is consumed by internal turmoil, desperate to understand his other self, buy and stop whatever dark path he is on. A name flashes in his mind, Shinryuji Rei ... She should know something ... To stern-faced detectives confront Eiji in the corridor, their official demeanor and flashed police badge immediately signaling his worst fears coming true. His expression shifts from mild surprise to utter dread. Eiji's face is a mask of pure terror as he's led down a sterile hallway by the detectives. I knew it, he thinks, a chilling resignation settling in as they request to speak with him in a nearby cafe. Seated in the cafe, Eiji's polite acceptance of a coffee offered by the detectives turns to a jolt of panicked recognition. The both brand coffee ignites a memory of the mysterious money, intensifying his internal dread. The female detective, her expression unreadable, begins the interrogation by asking Eiji about his whereabouts 3 weeks ago on October 16th, Sunday, immediately putting him on edge. Eiji recounts his alibi for October 16th, a part-time job, home by 7 p.m, asleep by 9 p.m, all the while convinced the police are investigating B's actions and desperately trying to remember every detail. The female detective produces a photograph of a young woman, her gaze piercing as she asks Eiji if he recognizes her. He unequivocally denies knowing the smiling face staring back. Eiji struggles to confirm his alibi, sweating with discomfort, when the detective delivers a bombshell, according to our investigation. There is testimony that you were dating this woman. Eiji's eyes widen in utter disbelief. The detective reveals the woman's name, Hotonoka Yako, and asks, was your girlfriend, am I wrong? Eiji's face twists into a mask of pure horror, the accusation ripping through his fragile composure. Eiji vehemently denies ever knowing Hotonoka Yako, his voice strained with desperation. The detective, however, reveals the chilling truth. Hotonoka Yako went missing on October 16th, intensifying Eiji's dread. Eiji's stunned expression is met with the cold, hard truth. Hotonoka Yako's corpse was found 4 days ago. When he asks if it was an accident, the detective's grim nose seals a horrifying fate. Eiji recoils in shock as the detective reveals the brutal truth. Yako was brutally murdered, in the exact same manner as the corpses in the line's incidents 15 years ago, hinting at a serial killer's return. The detective details the unspeakable tortures Yako endured, conscious throughout, fingers clipped, skin peeled, ears torn off as Eiji listens, aghast. She questions if it's fate or coincidence connecting him to the horror. Leaning in, the detective confronts Eiji with his darkest secret. Son of a serial killer, Hachinoi Eiji, her words striking him with the force of a physical blow, leaving him paralyzed with terror and despair. Eiji's face contorts in anguish as he grapples with the horrifying accusation of murder, desperately denying it. A chilling realization dawns, his memory lapses, and B's emergence must have begun earlier than he thought. Alone in the city's neon glow, Eiji is consumed by a crushing realization. His other self, Bai, has been active for weeks, perhaps even months, in places utterly unknown to him, deepening his despair. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Eiji desperately insists to the impassive detectives that he knows nothing at all about the woman or the murder, his denials ringing hollow against the weight of their suspicion. As the interrogation concludes, the male detective, driving away, smugly declares Eiji 100% guilty, scoffing at his panic and denial, confident that he's cornered his suspect. While the male detective confidently declares Eiji guilty, the female detective remains pensive. She doubts Eiji is the mastermind, but suspects he's undeniably involved, resolving to uncover his true connection. The female detective, a determined glint in her eyes, vows to meticulously investigate Eiji. Meanwhile, Eiji, back home, is overcome by a wave of intense nausea and panic, collapsing over the sink in sheer horror. Eiji frantically splashes water on his face, desperately denying his involvement in any murder. His panic escalates to terror as he discovers a blood-stained cloth, a chilling piece of evidence, in his pocket. Eiji's world shatters as he stares at a severed human ear, adorned with a familiar flower earring and smeared with blood. Her ears were torn off ... double quotes the detective's words echo, and he screams in mind-numbing horror, realizing the inescapable truth. Kyuka prepares a home-cooked meal, her expression a mix of gentle affection and quiet expectation. As she sets the table for their dinner on that Saturday evening in November, she calls out to Eiji with a hopeful smile. However, beneath this domestic tranquility, a heavy shadow lingers from the events of just a few hours prior, threatening the fragile peace of their first meal together in their new home. Eiji sits at the table, his eyes wide and vacant as a horrific memory of a severed body part flashes through his mind. Kyuka notices his distant state, her concern deepening as she tries to pull him back to the present. He forced himself to snap out of it, flashing a bright, desperate smile while heaping praise on the food, frantically trying to mask the psychological trauma that makes every bite feel like ash. For Eiji, the world begins to warp, the flavor of the food vanishing into a void of tastelessness. His vision distorts, and Kyuka's voice feels like it is drifting from a vast distance. A profound sense of dissociation takes hold as he stares into the dark abyss of his own eye, feeling his very grasp on reality slipping. He is trapped in a nightmare where the boundaries of his life are rapidly disintegrating. Eiji watches his sense of normal crumble away, leaving him questioning if he ever truly belonged in this peaceful world. He reflects on the past, remembering the day he returned to a home that should have been a sanctuary, only to be met with an eerie, echoing silence. This haunting introspection reveals a childhood marked by a dark legacy, suggesting that his current identity may be nothing more than a fragile facade. A young Eiji stands frozen in a doorway, his world shattered by a sight of pure horror. In the center of the dimly lit room, a figure hangs motionless against the harsh light of the window. The absolute stillness of the scene is deafening, a traumatic core memory that has defined his existence. This moment of discovery, etched in shadow and despair, serves as the brutal origin of the lies he has built around himself. The trauma intensifies as Eiji stares at the gruesome aftermath of his mother's suicide. A blood-stained message scrawled on the wall serves as a final, agonizing apology for bringing a murderer's child into the world. The weight of this inherited guilt and the visceral imagery of her death create a suffocating atmosphere of tragedy, illustrating the heavy cross he has been forced to carry since his youth. In his current state of distress, Eiji is bombarded by fragments of his traumatic past. Images of the summer heat and his mother's final moments collide with the internal refrain of "I see nothing, I know nothing." He huddles in despair, desperately trying to convince himself that his life is just a bad dream, a nightmare he can wake up from if he only tries hard enough to deny the truth of his lineage. Driven by a desperate need for a fresh start, Eiji squeezes his eyes shut, counting down from 10 with a fervor that borders on pain. He yearns for this bad dream to end and for his real life to begin, a life defined by a normal house and a normal person. His expression is a heart-wrenching plea for normalcy, a frantic attempt to reboot his identity and escape the shadow of his biological father. Sitting alone in the quiet apartment, Eiji is struck by a devastating realization. His entire life has been a carefully constructed lie. He gazes at the sink, the mundane act of washing dishes, suddenly feeling hollow. He wonders if he has been deceiving himself all along, realizing with a pang of self-loathing that even his relationship with Kyuka might be nothing more than cashing in on a life that belongs to his other self, B1. As Kyuka approaches him with warmth and affection, Eiji is overwhelmed by the sensory details of her presence, her smell, her touch. He is consumed by the thought that their love is built on a foundation of lies. Despite his internal turmoil, a sudden impulse takes hold. He turns to her, his movements urgent and startling, as if trying to grasp something real before it all vanishes. In the kitchen, the tension between them erupts into a moment of raw, desperate intimacy. Eiji's actions are driven by a frantic need to feel alive and connected, pushing past Kyuka's initial surprise. The domestic setting provides a jarring contrast to the intensity of their embrace, highlighting the chaotic emotions swirling beneath the surface of their seemingly normal lives. After their moment of passion, Eiji looks at Kyuka with a mixture of shock and dawning clarity. He reflects on how their relationship may have started as a lie, a role he was playing, but realizes that his feelings for her have evolved into something undeniably real. Memories of their shared laughter and quiet moments together flood back, forcing him to acknowledge that she is the one true thing in his fabricated world. Eiji finds a sense of salvation in Kyuka, viewing her as a light that descended into the cesspool of his life. Their intimacy is no longer just a physical act but a spiritual anchor, a way for him to transcend his dark heritage and the lies he's told. In her arms, the world outside ceases to exist, and he surrenders to the only source of genuine happiness he has ever known. Eiji gazes at Kyuka, his expression filled with a profound and somber love. In this moment of quiet clarity, he accepts her as the only truth he has ever known. The darkness of his past still lingers, represented by shadowy figures at the edge of his consciousness, but his focus is entirely on her. She has become his reality, the single point of light in a life otherwise defined by deception. Later, as they lie together in bed, the peace of the moment is underscored by a lingering sadness in Eiji's eyes. He watches Kyuka sleep, his heart heavy with the secret of his dual identity and the danger he has brought into her life. He gently strokes her face, a silent vow to protect her, even if it means sacrificing his own happiness and the fragile normalcy they have built. The following morning, Sunday, November 6th, Eiji delivers a crushing blow that shatters their peaceful morning. With a cold, detached expression, he tells Kyuka, "Let's break up." Her world comes to a sudden, jarring halt, her eyes wide with disbelief as she struggles to process the words. She tries to laugh it off as a bad joke, but Eiji's silence confirms her worst fears. Eiji hardens his heart, putting on a cruel, mocking facade to push Kyuka away. He tells her he was just playing around and that he only wanted her for her body. The calculated malice in his words is designed to make her hate him, a desperate act of self-sacrifice intended to distance her from the danger that follows him. He watches her reaction, his own pain hidden behind a mask of indifference. Kyuka is devastated, her heart breaking under the weight of Eiji's cold dismissal. Tears stream down her face as she tries to hold herself together, the pain of his joke almost too much to bear. She stands before him, a figure of raw, unadulterated grief, unable to comprehend the sudden change in the man she loves. Eiji remains stoic, forcing himself to watch her suffer for her own safety. As Kyuka walks away, Eiji watches her go, his eyes filled with a silent, agonizing goodbye. He returns to the empty apartment, the silence now deafening. He is consumed by the physical and emotional pain of their separation, lashing out in frustration as he struggles with the heavy burden of his choices. He is alone again, trapped in a world of his own making, haunted by the love he had to destroy. Eiji's mind races as he looks at a photograph of Hotonoka Yako, the detective's words echoing in his head. He realizes with horror that if Yako was brutally murdered, then Kyuka is next on the killer's list. The connection to the line's incidents from 15 years ago becomes clear, and Eiji is paralyzed by the thought that as long as she is near him, she is in mortal danger. He realizes his lie was the only way to save her. Eiji holds his phone, his finger hovering over the emergency number 110. He reflects on his life of deception, acknowledging that while he has always lied to protect himself, this final, most painful lie was entirely for Kyuka. The cityscape stretches out before him, vast and indifferent, as he prepares to make a call that will change everything. He is ready to face the truth, no matter the cost. Eiji makes the call, his voice trembling as he speaks to the emergency operator. He is gripped by an overwhelming sense of dread, the weight of his confession hanging heavy in the air. As he tries to explain the situation, he notices something on the table, a cryptic scribble that catches his attention. The tension escalates as he struggles to find the words to describe the nightmare he's lived through. On the phone, Eiji becomes increasingly agitated, his speech breaking down into incoherent fragments. Sweat pours down his face as he stares at the desk, his mind reeling from a sudden, shocking discovery. The operator's voice continues to ask for information, but Eiji is lost in a moment of pure realization, his eyes fixed on the frantic scribbling that seems to hold a terrifying clue to his other self. Eiji's eyes widen in terror as he sees the name Sai and a phone number revealed beneath the heavy scribbles on the notepad. The emergency operator's voice fades into the background as he stares at this vital clue left behind by B1. The realization that his other self has been communicating, perhaps even plotting, sends a jolt of adrenaline through him. The hunt for the truth has taken a dark and dangerous new turn. Eiji sits alone, meticulously transcribing a name and phone number from a blackboard, when his phone unexpectedly rings, startling him. He answers, his eyes widening in confusion and a quiet apology escaping his lips as he struggles to comprehend the strange call. Eiji forces an uneasy smile, attempting to pass off the call as a mistake, but his relief is short-lived. He glances from his phone to the blackboard, the realization dawning with gut-wrenching horror. He has mistakenly called the very number he just noted, chilling him to the core. His phone clutched tightly, Eiji's gaze hardens with resolve, sensing a crucial lead. As he walks through the urban sprawl, his phone unexpectedly rings, pulling him up short. He answers, his face a mask of shock as a casual, unfamiliar voice greets him. Eiji recognizes the voice on the other end, his confusion growing as he questions the different number, even as he expresses thanks. He scrutinizes his contact list, a grim suspicion settling in his mind. This person knows more about EI than they let on. The caller extends an invitation to lunch, a proposition that fills Eiji with apprehension. He weighs the danger of meeting an unknown individual against the tantalizing possibility of a lead, his expression a turmoil of indecision and unease. With a deep breath, Eiji surrenders to fate, muttering, "Whatever happens, happens." His eyes harden with a desperate resolve. "I have to do whatever I can to protect Kyuka-chan," as he strides forward into the unknown. Eiji moves through the bustling city, his focus intense as a sleek black car cruises past. "I'll get closer to the truth, even if it means putting myself in danger," he vows, a manic determination glinting in his eyes. Right? Officer Momoi meets Itsu-san, a freelance journalist, who delves into the horrific state of the victims' bodies. Itsu-san ominously reveals his intelligence links Urashima Eiji to the line's incidents of 15 years prior, piquing Momoi's professional intrigue. Itsu-san offers Momoi exclusive information on Eiji, while simultaneously, police tracking Yako's movements yields results. CCTV footage shows her meeting a man at a cafe, immediately identifying him as a person of interest in the case. Eiji is jolted by an enraged officer screaming his name, accusing him of lying about never meeting Yako. The officer, seething with betrayal, demands Eiji's immediate arrest, his furious words ringing with conviction. As police review the cafe footage, a third figure emerges from the shadows with Yako and the man. A chilling close-up reveals a distinct skull tattoo on the back of their neck, leaving one officer frozen in stunned horror. The sinister skull tattoo, with its ominous skull and tribal design, fills the screen. An officer slowly spells out the letters, his voice trembling as he realizes the horrifying truth. "Don't tell me ... it's a notorious Yakuza gang." Eiji finds himself trapped in a car with intimidating men, a horrifying realization dawning. These are the members of the infamous gang. Skull. One introduces him as the son of a legendary killer, earning him a chilling, wary respect. A gang member, his face twisted in a predatory smile, chillingly announces Eiji's forced induction into school. Eiji's eyes widen in absolute horror, his expression a mask of disbelief and impending doom. The gang members praise Eiji's evil blood and style, predicting his rise through their ranks and the gang's impending dominance. Eiji stares out the window, his mind reeling as he processes his terrifying new reality. The gang discusses Hotonoka Yako with chilling nonchalance. One dismisses her as a regrettable incident, while another feigns ignorance, their cold indifference starkly revealing their ruthless nature as Eiji listens in growing horror. The gang leader offers a twisted, mocking prayer for Yako, then flashes a grotesque, manic grin, revealing a skull and crossbones tongue-piercing. "Just kiddin'," he sneers, leaving Eiji utterly repulsed and terrified. Eiji looks out at the city, a profound terror gripping him. "I didn't expect these guys to be this dangerous." Yet, a desperate resolve flickers in his eyes. He knows if he follows school, the truth might finally be revealed. Eiji sits amidst the high-ranking members of school, the air thick with the smell of searing meat. It's a celebratory dinner at the Club Lust, but for Eiji, the higher-grade beef feels like a grim baptism into their inner circle. As he raises a piece of meat with trembling chopsticks, he realizes this welcome party is far from ordinary. They say to dig in, he thinks, but this meat tastes of something far darker than a simple meal. The festive atmosphere of the yakiniku dinner curdles into a nightmare. Beside the table, a man named Hiro is bound and blooded, his face a mask of agony with one ear brutally severed. A woman named Nomi collapses in tears at the sight of the carnage, her sobs punctuating the chilling sound of the executives continuing to eat. Eiji stares at his plate, the realization of school's true depravity sinking in as the others munch on their food with casual indifference. The leader, Sayoshiro, erupts in a flash of violent irritation, grabbing Nomi by her hair to silence her weeping. He sneers at her weakness, blaming another woman, Yako Hotonoka, for the current mess. As he forces Nami's head back, his words are a venomous lesson on the disposable nature of women in their world. Eiji watches, paralyzed, as Sai reduces human relationships to mere transactions of flesh and convenience. Sai continues his psychological assault, his fingers invasive and cruel against Nami's face as she trembles. He mocks her virgin act, suggesting that her only value lies in the bill she can eventually present to a customer. His eyes are cold, devoid of any empathy, as he defines the dehumanizing reality of the women under school's thumb. Eiji feels a sickening knot in his stomach, witnessing the raw, unfiltered misogyny that fuels their criminal empire. From his seat, Eiji listens with growing horror as the conversation shifts to clients and goods, the euphemisms for human trafficking becoming chillingly clear. He realizes that school's activities aren't just about simple prostitution, it's a systematic exploitation of women. The casual way they discuss procuring more stock makes his skin crawl. Is this what school really is? He wonders, an organized machine for selling bodies. The scene shifts to a stark police office where a detective presents a grim report. The investigation confirms that school is far more than a simple gang. They are a criminal group dealing in organized prostitution. Looking at a photo of Sayoshiro, the director realizes they are facing a truly dangerous adversary. The weight of the situation hangs heavy in the room, the authorities finally acknowledging the scale of the evil they are attempting to dismantle. The director and his subordinate discuss the terrifying possibility that school's leader might be an imitator of Lines, a legendary serial killer from 15 years ago. The subordinate vows to bring in both Sai and Urashima, but the director warns of the danger, sensing that they are about to stir a hornet's nest. As the police building looms in the twilight, the echoes of a dark past threaten to repeat themselves in a new, even more violent form. Eiji knows he hasn't gathered enough information yet. To truly understand the connection between Yako Hotonoka and the killer B1, he realizes he must dive deeper into the heart of school. Meanwhile, the gang turns their attention back to the bound captive. They decide that a simple severed ear is too lenient for a lady killer who tricked their goods, and the atmosphere turns even more predatory as they contemplate his final fate. Sai turns to Eiji with a chilling grin, offering him the honors of continuing the torture. He gestures toward a tray of gruesome tools, inviting Eiji to prove his lineage as the successor to the legendary serial killer Lines. The other members watch with expectant, hungry eyes. Eager for a good show, Eiji stares at the tools, the pressure of their collective gaze, and the weight of his false identity threatening to crush him. Doubt begins to flicker among the school members as they scrutinize Eiji's hesitation. One man mocks him, seeing only a spineless little shit instead of a cold-blooded killer. The tension in the club reaches a breaking point as Sai challenges Eiji once more, his smile sharpening into a predatory edge. Eiji stands frozen, the silence of the room amplifying the desperate thumping of his own heart. What you gonna do? The silence seems to scream. Steeled by desperation, Eiji stands and approaches the bound man. He selects a blowtorch from the tray, the metal cold in his shaking hand. The room falls silent as he ignites the flame, its blue hiss a herald of the violence to come. Nomi watches in horror as Eiji approaches the victim, the torch's flickering light casting long, demonic shadows across his face. He knows there is no turning back. To survive, he must become the monster they expect. Eiji looms over the victim, the blowtorches flame inches from the man's face. The gang watches, captivated by the escalating brutality. In his mind, Eiji is screaming, his thoughts a frantic mantra of survival. If winning their trust brings me closer to the truth. If I can protect KYUK-chan ... double quotes he reasons, trying to justify the horrific choice he's about to make. The line between acting and reality blurs as he prepares to inflict unbearable pain. Eiji's expression hardens, a shadow of genuine darkness crossing his features. He looks down at the terrified man with a cold, detached gaze, his resolve suddenly absolute. Ready to do anything, he thinks, the words a grim vow to himself. The vulnerability he showed moments ago is gone, replaced by a chilling mimicry of his father's supposed bloodlust. The predator within him, real or feigned, has finally emerged to claim its prize. The blowtorch roars as Eiji applies the flame, the victim's muffled screams filling the club. The air becomes acrid with the smell of burning flesh, and even the hardened members of school look on with a mix of awe and unease. Eiji stands at the center of the carnage, a silhouette against the flickering blue light, seemingly transformed into the very legacy he was meant to inherit. The act of torture is no longer a threat, it is a sickening reality. Suddenly, Eiji clatters the blowtorch to the floor, the flame extinguishing as it hits the tiles. The victim collapses into unconsciousness, frothing at the mouth. The school members stare in confusion, wondering why he stopped. One man sneers, accusing him of chickening out just as things were getting interesting. The silence that follows is thick with suspicion. The temporary acceptance Eiji had earned beginning to unravel. Eiji scoffs at their disappointment, his voice dripping with calculated arrogance. He quotes his father, claiming that the real challenge of torture is keeping the subject alive, and that those who only think of pain are mere amateurs. He mocks their primitive methods, his words a sophisticated mask for his own revulsion. Sai looks on, intrigued by this new display of intellectual cruelty, his suspicion momentarily replaced by a dark fascination. Eiji continues his psychological play, his eyes wide and manic as he questions why they would stop at simple burning. He describes more elaborate, agonizing methods, his voice rising with a disturbing enthusiasm. He paints a picture of torture as a twisted art form, one that requires finesse and duration rather than just raw violence. The gang is silenced by his graphic descriptions, the sheer twistedness of his words reinforcing his identity as LLSR. With a final, dismissive HMPH, Eiji looks at the unconscious man and compares torturing him now to sleeping with a dead fish. He insults their lack of refinement, asking if such a pathetic display actually gets them hard. His words are a bold gamble, a direct challenge to their masculinity and their status as criminals. The members of school stand in stunned silence, balanced between outrage and a growing respect for his sheer audacity. The tension snaps as the school members burst into raucous laughter. Charmed by Eiji's way with words, they celebrate his apparent depravity. Convinced that they have finally found a worthy successor to Lines, Eiji joins in their laughter, his face a mask of mirth. But internally, he is reeling. I lied, he thinks, the weight of his deception a heavy burden. Everything my father said. Everything I just did. It was all a lie. Alone with his thoughts for a fleeting second, Eiji's mask crumbles into a face of pure, snot-streaked terror. That was so scary. He weeps internally, the reality of what he just did crashing down on him. He realizes he has been deceiving himself for 15 years, and that this pretense is nothing compared to the truth he's hunting. He looks at school, wondering if he has truly earned their trust, his gaze hardening as he prepares for the next step of his descent. Mizuki, an executive of the SKLL gang, bows deeply in an act of exaggerated apology to Eiji. His initial hostility has completely vanished, replaced by a strange, wide-eyed reverence. He confesses to having been a lifelong devotee of the legendary serial killer Lines, and meeting the man's son is a dream come true. With a frantic, eager energy, he begs Eiji for an autograph, even specifying it should be dedicated to Mizuki-kun. The atmosphere in the room shifts into a surreal frenzy as the other gang members follow Mizuki's lead. One by one, they demand their own autographs, their faces lit with a fanatical intensity. Eiji complies, but his expression is one of hollow shock as he writes a chilling message to Saikun from LL's son Urashima Eiji. With Malice Aforethought behind him, another member watches the display of mindless worship with a cynical, bored smirk. Eiji sits amidst the group, feeling a profound sense of disorientation as he watches them proudly hold up his signed papers. For the first time in his life, the label that once made him a social pariah has become a badge of honor. He realizes with a bitter irony that while the rest of the world views him with loathing, here, in the heart of SKLL, he is welcomed as royalty precisely because of his father's horrific legacy. A gang member leans in with a welcoming smile, pouring wine for Eiji and reaffirming his place within their ranks. Eiji remains quiet, his gaze distant as he contemplates the mystery of his alternate personality. He wonders if that other side of him truly found a sense of belonging in this dark brotherhood, or if his presence here serves a much more calculating purpose. The celebration continues around the table, but Eiji's initial sense of acceptance quickly turns to resolve. As he drinks, his eyes sharpen with a hidden agenda. He knows that his true mission isn't to find a home among these criminals, he is here to infiltrate. This isn't what I'm here for, he tells himself, the facade of a grateful newcomer masking the cold determination of an investigator. Eiji's focus narrows as he commits himself to uncovering the truth. He questions whether his alternate self was responsible for Hoto no Kayako's death, or if a real killer remains at large. He is determined to dig through school's secrets, piece by piece, until he finds the answers. I've made it into their heart, he realizes, knowing that from this moment on, every interaction is a step toward unmasking a murderer. In the quiet, dimly lit streets, Hyuka stares at her phone, her face etched with growing anxiety as her calls go unanswered. She stands alone, the vast, sprawling city behind her emphasizing her isolation. As she looks toward Eiji's apartment, a sudden flash of light from a window catches her eye, heightening the sense of unease that something is terribly wrong. Inside the dark apartment, a flashlight beam cuts through the gloom, illuminating a scene of hidden violence. A metal baseball bat, stained with blood, lies discarded. Nearby, a bag is stuffed with thick stacks of cash, the face of the man on the bill staring up mockingly. The heavy silence is broken only by the persistent ringing of the doorbell, signaling Hyuka's desperate arrival. Hyuka stands at the door, her reflection visible in the security lens as she knocks with increasing urgency. Her voice is strained, caught between concern and a growing suspicion that Eiji is inside but refusing to answer. I guess we really should have a proper talk, she thinks, her face hardening with the realization that the secrets between them are becoming too dangerous to ignore. Back at the gathering, a gang member poses a chilling question to Eiji about why his father chose prolonged torture as his method of killing. He suggests that the ritualistic aspect was a form of purification for the victim's sins. Eiji listens in grim silence, his mind racing as the conversation veers toward the symbolic nature of LL's crimes, specifically his targeting of women he deems sinful. The gang members laugh boisterously, but Eiji feels the walls closing in. He realizes that at this rate, he won't get any real information. Deciding to take a heavy-handed approach, he brings up Hotonoka Yako's murder, suggesting she was killed for her sins. The room goes silent as the executives fix him with cold, calculating stares, their suspicion instantly ignited by his knowledge of a detail not yet public. An executive leans back, his expression a mask of sadistic delight as he reflects on Hotonoka Yako. He speaks of her punishment and her refusal to reveal a secret identity that died with her. Eiji's eyes widen in shock at the mention of her protecting someone. The leader's tone turns predatory as he thanks Eiji for bringing up the topic, signaling that the main theme of their meeting is about to begin. The tension explodes as a massive, snarling pit bull is led into the room. The gang members recoil in alarm, but the leader remains calm, introducing the dog as Billy, a champion fighter and a serial killer of the dog world. He boasts of the animal's lethality, having ripped every opponent to death. Eiji watches with mounting horror, the beast's raw aggression a terrifying omen of what is to come. The leader mentions a leaked lines file that contains records of his father's torture methods, specifically one where victims are eaten alive by wild dogs. He admits to a twisted desire to try the method himself. The other members listen with a mix of skepticism and grim fascination. The leader's gaze lingers on the pit bull, his intentions clear. Someone in the room is about to become a test subject for this horrific ritual. The gang members erupt in a chorus of dark excitement, their faces twisted with bloodlust as they contemplate who will be fed to the dog. Eiji is drenched in cold sweat, his breath hitching as he realizes the gravity of the situation. Who's gonna get eaten? They jeer. The leader looks on with a calm, terrifying composure, the question hanging in the air like a death sentence. An executive suggests that the traitor should be the one to face the dog. The atmosphere turns icy as the leader reveals that their money mule was recently attacked and robbed of 60 million yen. He stares directly at the group, his eyes sharp and accusatory. The implication is clear, the thief is among them, and the price of betrayal will be paid in blood and bone. The executives exchange grim, shadowed looks as the details of the robbery emerge. Two masked attackers beat their friend with a metal bat on Halloween and vanished with the cash. The group is shaken, their usual bravado replaced by a tense silence. The leader's voice is a low, dangerous rumble as he recounts the brutality of the attack, setting the stage for a hunt for the culprits. The leader points out that the attackers knew exactly where the money was kept, suggesting the robbery was an inside job. He notes that only the executives had access to that information. Eiji's heart hammers against his ribs as he remembers his own actions on Halloween. The memory of the metal bat and the stolen millions flashes in his mind, a terrifying connection that could cost him his life. Eiji is paralyzed with fear as the weight of the leader's suspicion falls upon the room. He struggles to maintain his facade while his mind screams in panic, "Are you kidding me? Be one." He thinks, realizing his alternate self has committed a crime that has put them both in the crosshairs of a sadistic gang. The other executives look on with a mix of disbelief and mounting dread, knowing that any one of them could be next. Amidst the unfolding chaos and the hunt for a traitor, the ghost of Hotonoka Yako lingers over the scene. She is remembered as a sinful or whose death holds the key to the truth about B1 as Eiji's world begins to crumble. Her presence serves as a haunting reminder that the secrets of the past are slowly coming to light, piece by piece, and the reckoning is finally at hand. Sai, surrounded by the cold, industrial remnants of a club, the predator within smiles as he pets his savage pitbull, Billy. His thoughts drift with poisonous intent toward the missing Hotonoka Yako, a woman he holds in utter contempt, suspecting her of betrayal long before she met her violent end. Sai calmly details his failure to break the defiant Yako, finding her disappearance more a nuisance than a mystery. He stands before shadowed figures, revealing his cruel patience as he allowed her to wander, hoping she would slip up and expose her accomplices before she was ultimately silenced by a horrific attack. In a dimly lit room, the atmosphere thickens with suspicion as an investigator ponders if Yako was silenced during a struggle for power within her own ranks. Sai watches, his expression unreadable, as he produces a small plastic bag containing a man's watch, a pivotal piece of evidence recovered from Yako's empty apartment. Sai dangles the mysterious watch before the room, a mocking challenge in his eyes as he suggests it belonged to a frequent visitor in Yako's private life. He senses a secret hidden behind her silence, a desperate loyalty she took to her grave. Beside him, a young man's eyes go wide with silent, mounting terror at the sight of the timepiece. Tension pulses through the room as the young man recoils in shock, the sudden, aggressive barking of Billy shattering the heavy silence. Sai leans in with a predatory grin, his eyes fixed on the trembling youth, sensing a connection to the owner of the watch as the savage dog strains against its leash. Sai taunts the terrified young man, using the beast Billy as a living instrument of psychological torture. He describes the dog's brutal nature with chilling delight, specifically its habit of never letting go of its prey until they are torn apart, leaving the victim paralyzed with the realization of the violent fate awaiting him. Fear becomes a tangible weight as the young man stares at Billy, his breath hitching as Sai's cold gaze bores into him. He is frozen, escaping his lips as Sai's hand tightens on the leash. With a sudden, decisive command, Sai releases the beast, the promise of violence finally erupting. The air is filled with a primal roar as the pitbull, Billy, lunges with bared fangs, his jaw unhinged in a display of pure, animalistic fury. There is no escape from the sudden surge of violence, only the raw, visceral sound of an impending attack that promises to be swift and unforgiving. Realization strikes with the force of a death blow as the young man's face pales, the cold sweat of absolute terror drenching his skin. His wide, vacant eyes reflect a singular, devastating thought that echoes in the silence of his mind. I'm dead. Outside the club lust, the night is deceptively still, but inside, the young man is haunted by the weight of a secret he cannot outrun. His eyes are hollow, fixed on a horrific truth as he stands at the precipice of a violent reckoning he knows he cannot escape. A blood-curdling scream shatters the urban quiet as a hand clenches in agony, the young man's eyes nearly bulging from their sockets in a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. The realization of what is happening to him is too much to bear, his mind fracturing under the sudden, brutal onset of pain. In the center of the room, Billy is a blur of savage motion, latched onto a long-haired man who howls in unimaginable agony. Sai watches the carnage with a detached, cold indifference, lighting a cigarette as the victim's screams echo off the walls, a brutal testament to the price of silence. The man named Domu desperately pleads for mercy, his voice a frantic mess of denials as he cowers before the looming threat of the beast. Sai, unmoved by the display of cowardice, holds Billy back for just a moment, offering a single, chilling chance for Domu to explain his role in the betrayal. A memory of a gentler time flickers as Domu recalls a moment with Yako, her soft voice, and the expensive necklace he gave her, a stark contrast to his current nightmare. He had never seen her as mere merchandise, his feelings for her rare vulnerability that led him into this trap of flirtation and deceit. The memory turns intimate as Domu recalls Yako's desperate pleas to know him more deeply, her touch a siren song that drew him away from his work and into her web. He was blinded by her feigned interest, never suspecting that her desire to hear about his work was a calculated move to extract information. The warmth of the memory fades into a cold, crushing reality as Domu remembers Yako's embrace, her smile now revealed as a mask for her true intentions. He realizes too late that he was just one of many, and that the other man she preferred was likely the one who set this entire violent chain of events in motion. Sai's face contorts into a mask of pure, mocking malice as he laughs at Damu's stupidity, revealing that he has already checked every bank account and corner of Damu's life. He knows the missing money isn't there, and his contempt for the dimwit who was so easily conned by a girl is absolute. Sai leans in close, his voice a low, terrifying hiss as he confirms that Domu was nothing more than a pawn, used and discarded by Yako. The young man nearby watches in silent horror, his mind racing with the terrifying realization that if Sai discovers his own connection to Yako, he is truly finished. The young man remains frozen, the sounds of Damu's frantic, stuttering attempts to speak filling the tense air. He watches as Domu, broken and terrified, struggles to find words that might save his life, though both know that in Sai's world, there is no such thing as mercy for the weak. Tears stream down Damu's face as he makes one final, pathetic plea for forgiveness, promising to make it up to Sai, but Sai's only response is a chilling smile as he crushes his cigarette, telling Domu to say hi to Yako in hell. Outside the club, a final, agonized scream marks the end of Damu's story. Eiji. It was a horrifyingly long day for Eiji, whose shell-shocked expression reflects the weight of the events he's endured. As he stands amidst the bustling city crowd, the mundane world around him feels surreal and distant. Behind his wide, glazed eyes, a turbulent storm of trauma brew, leaving him mentally adrift. His companions watch him with a mix of concern and stoicism, sensing the fragile state of a man pushed to his absolute breaking point. Sai. The atmosphere is thick with malice as a ruthless leader delivers a cold ultimatum to his gang. Over the body of a fallen traitor, he declares that retribution has only just begun. His eyes gleam with a sadistic promise as he vows to hunt down those who fled with their money, intending to paint the very walls with their blood. The chilling resolve in his voice leaves no room for mercy, signaling a brutal hunt for the fugitives who dared to cross him. Eiji. Haunted by his narrow escape, Eiji reflects on the web of secrets he's uncovered. He's realized that his alternate persona, B1, is more than just a murder suspect. He's a traitor hunted by a violent gang. The pieces of the puzzle are beginning to click into place, the link between B1, the prostitute Hotonoka Yako, and their infiltration of the gang called School, who was their third accomplice. He wonders, the weight of these new mysteries pressing heavily upon him. Eiji. As the sun sets, Eiji finds himself walking a lonely path, his mind consumed by the connection between Hotonoka Yako's murder and the gang attack. He realizes that everything leads back to B1, his own shadow self. A chilling thought takes hold. Yako didn't just disappear. She was silenced. The most suspicious person here is B1, isn't it? He admits to himself the terrifying realization of his own potential for darkness reflected in his wide, trembling eyes. Eiji, a sudden, piercing scream shatters Eiji's deep contemplation, sending him reeling in pure, unadulterated terror. He clutches his head, his face contorted in a mask of shock as the unexpected encounter nearly stops his heart. Standing before him is Shinjuji, whose sudden appearance has left him gasping for air. What the hell was that for? He demands, his voice trembling as he struggles to regain his composure after the heart-stopping fright. Eiji stares at the silent, enigmatic girl before him, feeling a surge of frustration at her habit of appearing out of nowhere and then refusing to speak. He decides he has no time for her games and turns to leave, sternly warning her not to follow him. Yet, despite his insistence, she trails behind him like a persistent shadow. No matter how much he tells her to stay away, her quiet, unwavering presence remains, tethered to him by some unknown purpose. Eiji, irritated by the girl's persistent shadow, Eiji snaps, telling her he has neither the time nor the energy for her antics. He tries to dismiss her once and for all, but she stops him cold with a single, devastating claim. She quietly declares that she has no choice but to take this to the police. Eiji's dismissive smirk instantly vanishes, replaced by a look of dawning horror as he realizes she holds a piece of evidence that could destroy him. Eiji's world collapses as the girl reveals a photo on her phone, a severed ear found in his own room. The sight leaves him paralyzed with shock, his mind racing to understand how she could have obtained such a grisly trophy. She explains with chilling ease how simple it was to pick his lock, mocking his supposed criminality while she casually admits to illegal trespassing. Tracked by her blackmail, Eiji can only stare in disbelief at the girl who now holds his life in her hands. The girl walks away with a cold promise to send him a Christmas card in prison, leaving Eiji desperate and reeling. He chases after her, demanding to know what she wants and why she is threatening him so ruthlessly. The tension reaches a breaking point when she mentions the kidnapping and murder of Hotonoka Yako. Eiji's heart hammers against his ribs as he realizes she knows far more than he ever imagined. Her gaze fixed on him with a terrifying, knowing intensity. The girl reveals she knows Eiji is the son of the serial killer LL and is a prime suspect in the current investigation. Eiji is stunned, wondering if she's been stalking him, but she claims to have simply overheard the truth at the university cafeteria. She admits a cold interest in both him and his alternate persona, the one forced into a corner. Eiji's suspicion grows as he stares at this mysterious figure who seems to find his dangerous double life fascinating. Eiji feels a sense of weary resignation as the girl falls silent again just when the conversation turns critical. Here it comes again, he thinks, realizing he has no choice but to accept her terms if he wants to keep her from the police. He agrees to let her follow him, at least until the one reappears. As he reflects on the danger of his other me, she leaves him with a stinging remark about women being attracted to bad boys, adding a bizarre layer of mockery to his dire situation. With a resigned fine, Eiji yields to the girl's persistence, allowing her to trail behind him. As they walk through the quiet streets, she suddenly produces a handwritten letter she found at his house. Eiji's eyes widen as he takes the envelope, the simple gesture carrying an unexpected weight. He looks at her with a mix of surprise and lingering suspicion, wondering what other secrets she has managed to unearth from the privacy of his home. Eiji's heart sinks as he looks at the letter from Kyuka, his protective instincts flaring. He is terrified that she's being dragged into the dark vortex of his life. He vehemently tells the girl that Kyuka knows nothing about his true identity or the incident. "I'm not gonna let her get dragged into this," he resolves, his face hardened with determination. Despite his own peril, his primary focus shifts to shielding the woman he cares for from the gathering shadows. Driven by a singular focus, Eiji declares that his priority is to pursue the case, regardless of the personal cost. The girl watches him with a quiet, analytical gaze, asking how he intends to proceed. Eiji's eyes sharpen with a sudden, dark clarity as he stares toward a distant love hotel. "I have a clue ... double quotes," he thinks, the looming structure of Hotel Noir representing the next dangerous step in his desperate search for the truth. Inside the sterile room of a love hotel, the atmosphere takes a bizarre and threatening turn. The girl produces a vibrating device, her expression unreadable as she issues a crude, aggressive threat. Eiji is caught completely off guard, his face a mask of bewildered shock and offense. He recoils, his mind reeling from her sudden hostility. "What?" he exclaims, struggling to process the surreal and humiliating turn this encounter has taken. The absurd tension in the room is shattered by the sudden ringing of the doorbell. Eiji, desperate to end the bizarre confrontation, urges the girl to turn off the vibrating device as a new figure enters. A woman with an air of casual confidence steps inside, adjusting her sunglasses and offering a playful greeting. Eiji stares at her, his heart racing with a different kind of shock as he recognizes the newcomer, her arrival adding a new, unpredictable element to the night. Eiji's suspicion ignites as he observes the newcomer, a woman who calls herself Nomi. While she casually talks about a cut on her lip and the price for her services, Eiji's attention is fixed on a specific detail. He notices her flower-shaped earring and his breath hitches. "That ear piercing ... it's the same as Hotonoka Yako-san's, isn't it?" He realizes the connection to the murdered woman, sending a jolt of adrenaline through him as the mystery deepens. Eiji stares intently at Nami, his mind flashing back to a haunting image of another woman being brutalized. He sees the identical flower earring and is certain of the connection. "Weren't you friends with Hotonoka Yako-san?" he asks, his voice tight with the weight of the accusation. Nami's playful facade remains, but Eiji's eyes are locked onto hers, searching for the truth hidden behind her sunglasses and the dark history she seems to share with the victim. The moment Eiji pleads for information about Yako, the air in the room turns violent. Nami's casual demeanor vanishes as she delivers a brutal, lightning-fast slap that sends Eiji reeling. The force of the blow leaves him stunned, his face contorted in pain and shock. As he recovers, he hears her whisper his name with a chilling familiarity, Urashima Eiji. She hisses, the revelation that she knows exactly who he is, turning his desperate search for answers into a dangerous trap. Eiji, reeling from a sudden, violent confrontation, stares in shock as a woman accuses him of a heinous crime. The air crackles with tension as she kicks him back, her face a mask of righteous fury. Eiji's mind is a whirlwind of confusion and fear, his world spinning as a young girl approaches with an ominous object, intent on ending his struggle. He wonders, the weight of the accusation crushing his spirit as he faces a terrifying, unknown fate. Tears stream down the woman's face as she screams Eiji's name, her voice thick with the pain of a profound betrayal. She reveals that she knows everything about him, her heart breaking for the friend he supposedly ruined. Eiji can only watch in agonized silence, his own expression a contorted mask of guilt and confusion. The raw emotion of her grief fills the room, a devastating testament to the lives shattered by a past he can barely comprehend. Eiji stands frozen, the chilling question of whether he was truly the one who murdered Yako echoing in the silence of the room. His eyes are wide with a burgeoning, horrific realization, the sweat on his brow a cold testament to his rising panic. Around him, the shadows seem to close in, the weight of a dark, hidden truth pressing down on his soul. Was it really? He thinks, the fragile foundation of his reality beginning to crumble under the shadow of a monster. Inside the stark walls of the police station, Detective Momoi stares down Sayashiro, a young man whose easy smile belies a dangerous nature. She presents a photo, pinning him to a specific night and a specific girl, Hotonoka Yako. Sai remains unfazed, his casual posture a direct challenge to her authority. The room is heavy with the unspoken history between them, a deadly game of cat and mouse where every question brings them closer to a dark, hidden truth. Sayashiro casually dismisses the detective's questions, his eyes glinting with a cold, detached amusement as he recounts a night drive that ended in a disappearance. Momoi's gaze is unwavering, her voice sharp as she exposes the dark reality of his operation, a predatory prostitution ring disguised as an elite club. The logo for Alice stands as a grim symbol of the exploitation he manages, a beautiful facade for a world built on the misery and forced labor of others. Sai's smile turns predatory as he mocks the investigation, his tongue darting out in a gesture of pure, taunting arrogance. He offers Momoi a membership, a sick invitation into his world of exploitation, his voice dripping with condescension. Momoi's expression is one of cold, focused disgust. She sees through his games, her resolve only hardening. I'd rather take a shot at something else, she thinks, her determination to bring him down burning brighter than ever. In the quiet of the precinct, a seasoned director observes the chilling ease with which Sayashiro navigates the interrogation, his presence leaving a trail of unease. Beside him, Momoi is a portrait of silent intensity, her mind racing with the report that Eiji has vanished. The weight of the investigation pulls at them both, the mystery of Eiji's whereabouts and Sai's cold confidence weaving a web of tension that threatens to suffocate the truth. The memory of a dimly lit club called Lust flickers to life, a place where a fateful meeting changed everything. Eiji and another woman stand in the VIP room, their gazes drawn to a figure sitting alone in the shadows. Yako. The atmosphere is heavy with the manufactured decadence, the beginning of a connection that would eventually lead to tragedy. In that moment, among the noise and the lights, the seeds of a dark, complicated future were sown. Amidst the hollow cheers and clinking glasses of a high-end party, Yako remains a portrait of haunting detachment. While the girls around her are dazzled by the presence of actors and athletes, she sits in a world of her own, her eyes reflecting a profound, weary apathy. There's something special about her, a quiet strength and a deep sadness that sets her apart from the performative joy of the room, a sign of the dark business that has already claimed her spirit. Sayashiro's smooth voice fills the room as he presents the Alice website, a digital gateway to a world of exploitation he masks as sugar dating. He targets the girl's desire for a better life, promising wealth and exclusivity. For a moment, the allure of being special blinds them to the danger. Thinking back now, it was really dumb. One reflects the memory of that initial, naive hope now tainted by the horrific reality of the trap they were walking into. The trap snaps, Shutter's Sai's smile turns into a weapon of blackmail, a glowing phone screen displaying the evidence he'll use to destroy her. The woman's face is a mask of pure, shivering terror, her world collapsing as she realizes there is no escape. The shadow of his power looms over her, a predatory force that has turned her dreams into a waking nightmare. She stands alone in the city's neon glow, the weight of her predicament a crushing, inescapable burden. In a moment of shared, bitter wisdom, a friend offers a chilling piece of advice: treat reality as a lie to survive the rot at its core. She demonstrates with a forced, haunting smile, a desperate mask against the madness. Eiji watches, his face pale with a burgeoning horror as he begins to understand the profound, psychological damage inflicted on those trapped in this world. The lesson is clear: to stay sane in a broken reality, one must learn to smile through the pain. Bonding over their shared misfortune, the two women find a fragile solace in each other's company, adopting the same style and attitude as a form of armor. But beneath Yako's forced apathy, a deeper truth emerges: her spirit has been completely poisoned by the world's endless lies. The swirl of her thoughts is a chaotic vortex of despair, a testament to a soul that has seen too much of the world's darkness and has no way back to the light. Eiji's world is upended once again as he learns that his arrival transformed Yako, turning a hardened, apathetic woman back into a pure little girl. His very presence offered her a glimpse of a different life, a hope so strong it made others jealous. The memory of his first words to her promise to smash the lies she lived with now rings with a tragic irony. He was her beacon of truth, a role he never realized he played until it was far too late. Yako stands as a figure of heartbreaking vulnerability, the weight of Eiji's promise to smash all the lies hanging in the air like a phantom. Her wide, hopeful eyes reflect a desperate need for the truth he offered, a truth that promised to liberate her from the prison of her life. In this moment, the connection between them is a raw, electric thing, a shared hope for a freedom that seems both tantalizingly close and impossibly far away. The woman's voice is a sharp blade of accusation, demanding to know why Eiji failed to protect Yako from the reality that eventually claimed her. Eiji is a portrait of stunned, speechless grief, the weight of her words sinking in like lead. The agonizing possibility that she might have survived if he had just been stronger, more vigilant, haunts him. Her anger is a mirror to his own growing self-loathing, the what-ifs of a tragic end beginning to consume him. A shocking revelation shatters Eiji's understanding of the past. The person who killed Yako wasn't the one. The world tilts on its axis as the foundation of his mission crumbles, replaced by a terrifying, new mystery. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated shock, the sweat of a new, deeper fear breaking out as he realizes the true monster is still out there, hidden in the shadows of a history he thought he finally understood. The date October 16th looms like a dark monument in the woman's memory: the day Yako vanished. She recounts their planned meeting, the drinks they never shared, and the chilling silence that followed. Eiji listens, his face a map of rising dread as the details of that final day fall into place. Every word is a piece of a puzzle he's desperate to solve, a roadmap through the final, terrifying hours of a life he couldn't save. The tension reaches a breaking point as the woman describes the final, frantic moments: the call that was cut off, the messages that went unanswered. The mystery of the daddy Yako was supposed to meet remains a dark, impenetrable void. Eiji's mind is a frantic scramble of questions, the image of Yako alone and in danger burning into his consciousness. The silence that followed her last message is a deafening testament to a tragedy that began with a single, missed call. In a final, chilling epiphany, the truth is laid bare: the daddy Yako went to meet was her murderer. The shadows on their faces deepen, a visual reflection of the dark, inescapable reality they've uncovered. Their gazes are locked in a shared, horrified understanding, the eyes of the monster seemingly staring back at them from the void. The hunt for the truth has led them to the very heart of darkness, and there is no turning back. Eiji, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and dawning realization, stares at the chilling evidence. A singular, haunting question consumes his mind: is this sugar daddy the person who murdered Hotonoka Yako? The weight of the secret is suffocating, especially knowing the ruthless nature of the organization known as school. Every instinct screams for silence, for he knows that any misstep could lead to his own demise at their hands. Eiji remains on edge, his face a mask of nervous sweat as he introduces Rei to a skeptical associate. Rei, standing with a cool, detached air, claims to be Yako's cousin, helping Eiji track down her killer. The tension in the room is palpable, underscored by the use of untraceable burner phones, a grim necessity when dealing with school. Eiji watches his companions, wondering if their precarious alliance can truly keep them hidden from the police and the killer. Eiji finds himself questioning why he, of all people, was given such a dangerous lead. His gaze drifts back to a traumatic memory of an act of mercy he performed at Lust, when he tried to shield a victim from further pain. The woman's simple explanation, "because aren't you one of the good guys?" hits him with unexpected force. It's a rare moment of validation amidst the surrounding darkness, grounding him in the moral compass he struggles to maintain. Tears of gratitude well in the woman's eyes as she acknowledges Eiji's bravery. She apologizes for her earlier accusations, realizing that Eiji's desperate attempt to save her boyfriend was an act of genuine courage. "You were the person that meant the most to Yako," she reflects softly. Eiji, overwhelmed by the emotional weight of her words, can only offer a humble, silent response, the bond between them forged in the fires of shared tragedy. Determination hardens in Eiji's eyes as he realizes the burden of settling this mystery rests solely on his shoulders. "I hope you'll get revenge for Yako," a voice echoes, fueling his resolve. He probes for more information about the mysterious big client Yako had mentioned, sensing that this high-profile figure is the key to everything. The search for a name or contact details becomes his new, singular focus, the only path toward the justice he seeks. Eiji scans an exclusive membership site, his frustration mounting as he finds only nicknames and no photos. The realization that he must meet the client in person to identify them adds a new layer of peril to his mission. When a school member unexpectedly hands him his own membership as a perk, Eiji accepts with a grim, hollow look. He knows he's deeper in the lion's den than ever before, his every move now under the organization's watchful eye. Ray's sharp gaze never wavers as she proposes a daring plan: find the client list and steal it from school's own office. The target is lust, the very place that haunts Eiji's nightmares. Despite the overwhelming fear that threatens to paralyze him, Eiji knows there is no other way. So in the end, I'm still gonna have to go back there, he thinks, the gravity of the mission settling over him like a cold shroud. A flicker of hope ignites within Eiji, a faint ray of light in the suffocating darkness. If he can identify the client, he might finally prove his innocence and clear his name. No choice but to go for it, he resolves, his face set in a mask of grim determination. Yet, even in the middle of his planning, a sudden, surreal request for a game of Mario Kart brings a jarring moment of normalcy, a sharp contrast to the life and death stakes of his reality. Eiji prepares to move, his mind racing as he tries to maintain his disguise. However, a sudden, forceful kick to his back sends him sprawling, the impact jarring his very soul. Ray stands over him, her expression a mix of anger and cold practicality. You can't possibly be thinking of marching right into school's hideout like that, she scolds, her words a harsh reminder that enthusiasm alone won't keep him alive in the den of vipers he's about to enter. Eiji argues with desperate intensity, his glasses slightly askew as he explains his theory. He believes the personality switch only occurs while he's asleep, a discovery that gives him a fleeting sense of control. If I stay awake, the personality switch won't happen, he declares, pointing a finger as if to anchor the thought. It's a high-stakes gamble against his own biology, a desperate attempt to keep the dangerous B1 persona at bay while he infiltrates school. The exhaustion is already beginning to claw at Eiji, but he pushes through, his face a portrait of strained resolve. He knows the 24-hour limit is a ticking clock, and every second counts. Ray remains a silent, stoic observer, her lack of reaction only adding to his mounting anxiety. A sudden, sharp slap from her serves as a brutal wake-up call, a reminder that the world he's entering has no room for fatigue or weakness. Standing before the neon-lit facade of lust, Ray delivers a final, chilling directive. Imagine all the possible situations. Create a plan of attack based on that. And then we infiltrate. The club's sign glows like a predatory eye in the night, a silent witness to the beginning of their desperate gambit. Eiji stares up at the building, the weight of the task ahead pressing down on him, knowing that once they step inside, there is no turning back. The air inside Lust is thick with the thumping pulse of music and the roar of a rowdy crowd. Eiji enters, his posture stiff and his expression a mask of feigned casualness. He scans the room, spotting a group of men deep in a high-stakes poker game, their laughter echoing through the haze. He offers a tentative greeting, his heart hammering against his ribs as he takes his first steps into the territory of the very monsters he's trying to expose. Eiji tries to navigate the treacherous social waters of the club, declining an invitation to join the poker game with a polite, nervous smile. I don't have the spare cash, sorry, he demurs, his mind focused on a much higher prize. He watches the players closely, sensing the underlying tension and the predatory instincts beneath their boisterous exterior. Every interaction is a test, a delicate balance between fitting in and remaining unnoticed as he seeks a way into the heart of the club. Eiji observes the club's power players from a distance, identifying the executive members Soy and Dodo. He notes the absence of Sai, who has reportedly been taken in by the police for questioning. This news sends a jolt of both relief and fresh anxiety through him. Are there only 2 executive members in Lust at the moment? He wonders, his mind already calculating the gaps in their defenses and the fleeting opportunity this might provide. The revelation that Sai is in police custody confirms Eiji's suspicions. The authorities are closing in on school's connection to Yako. While glad for the man's absence, Eiji knows the pressure on the remaining executives will only make them more dangerous. He excuses himself, claiming a need for the washroom, his heart racing as he begins his true mission. I'm quite glad that guy isn't here, he thinks, as he slips away into the shadows of the club's corridors. Eiji creeps through the restricted staff-only areas, his every sense heightened to the point of pain. He finds the office, but his heart nearly stops when he encounters a snarly, caged dog, a brutal guardian of the organization's secrets. Isn't this that dog, he thinks, paralyzed by a sudden, visceral fear. The corridor feels like a trap, the silence broken only by the low growl of the beast and the frantic pounding of his own pulse. Frustration boils over as Eiji finds the office door securely locked. He knows the executive members hold the keys, but their location remains a mystery. Desperation leads him to a risky move. He takes a photograph of the lock, hoping that even a glimpse of the mechanism might somehow aid his plan. Every second spent in the hallway feels like an eternity, the shadows themselves seeming to reach out and threaten his discovery. A sudden, sharp command freezes Eiji in his tracks, his blood turning to ice. He turns to find himself face to face with a stern, bespectacled man who demands to know what he's doing in the restricted area. Eiji's mind races, his face breaking into a cold, panicked sweat as he stammers out a desperate lie about getting lost. I got lost looking for the washroom, he says, his voice trembling with the very real terror of being caught in the act. The executive, Akora, eyes Eiji with a chillingly neutral expression before directing him back to the main floor. Eiji beat a hasty retreat, his heart still hammering against his ribs. He realizes that without Korra's presence, there are now 3 executive members to contend with. As he looks back at the formidable office door, a singular, daunting thought remains. Now, how do we sneak past the executive's eyes ... and into this room? Eiji stands amidst the thunderous roar of a crowded concert, but the music feels miles away. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated shock, his eyes wide and vacant as he absorbs the crushing reality of his situation. He has just been told he is down by 400,000 yen, and the weight of that astronomical loss hits him like a physical blow, leaving him reeling in a sea of indifferent strangers. The high-stakes atmosphere in the room is suffocating as Eiji struggles to maintain his composure. He eventually decides to stop for now, but as he walks away, his legs feel like lead, and his mind is a whirlwind of desperation. Behind him, the seasoned players mock his amateurish bluffs, their sharp eyes having already dissected his nervous tells. They see him not as a competitor, but as a fish to be picked clean in the games to come. A calculated smirk plays on Oikawa's lips as he expertly shuffles a deck of cards, his gaze fixed on his next move. He believes that being deceived is simply the price of one's own ignorance. Meanwhile, Eiji wanders through the lounge, a ghost in his own life, his movements heavy with the burden of his debt. A sudden vibration from his phone pulls him back to the present, a digital lifeline or perhaps a new complication in an already spiraling night. A clandestine message flickers on Eiji's screen, providing the technical details for a looming infiltration. He casts a wary glance back at the group of men, his heart hammering against his ribs. Every muscle in his body is coiled with tension, his hands trembling as he prepares to transition from a desperate gambler to a reluctant intruder. The stakes have shifted from money to something far more dangerous, and the fear of discovery is a cold weight in his gut. Eiji watches the bartender with a mix of suspicion and exhaustion, the simple act of receiving a glass of water feeling like a monumental event. He retreats into the shadows, his eyes darting toward the restricted VIP area. In the dim light, a mysterious figure in a beanie and sunglasses lurks, a silent omen of the trouble that lies ahead. Eiji's breath hitches as he realizes that the quiet corners of this club hold secrets far more perilous than a lost hand of cards. With a leather kit of specialized tools in hand, Eiji stands before a long corridor of lockers, the silence of the room amplifying the frantic beat of his heart. He confirms his position over the phone, his voice a low, urgent whisper. "All right, infiltration commencing now," he declares, a mix of terror and grim determination etched into his features. He knows there is no turning back. He is committed to a path where the smallest mistake could be his undoing. A mysterious woman provides a clinical explanation of bumping, a lockpicking technique she claims is so simple even a monkey could master it. She demonstrates the process with a chilling, practiced ease, emphasizing the speed and efficiency required for the task. Her calm demeanor stands in stark contrast to the illicit nature of the act, framing the upcoming break-in as a mere matter of mechanics and timing rather than a high-stakes crime. Eiji questions the origin of the custom tools, his anxiety rising as he learns they were crafted by a professional burglar. Despite the woman's mocking reassurance that he won't fail unless his intelligence is subpar, Eiji feels anything but confident. He breaks into a frantic run, his footsteps echoing through the sterile hallways as he nears his target. The adrenaline is a jagged edge in his veins, pushing him forward even as every instinct screams for him to turn back. Eiji reaches the heavy, metallic door marked staff only, his heart stopping at the sight of the restricted entry. His fear turns to sheer panic when a ferocious dog begins to bark from a nearby cage, its snarls filling the narrow corridor. He stands frozen, the sudden noise threatening to shatter his fragile cover. The proximity of the beast and the looming door create a suffocating trap, leaving him breathless and teetering on the edge of discovery. In a moment of pure, clumsy terror, the key slips from Eiji's trembling fingers. He watches in slow-motion horror as it tumbles through the air, his hand reaching out in a desperate, futile grab. The relentless barking of the dog adds to the chaotic symphony of his failure. Damn it, he thinks, his face contorting into a mask of pure desperation. The very tool he needs for his survival is falling away, leaving him vulnerable in the heart of enemy territory. Time seems to freeze as the key bounces off the floor and slides toward a floor drain. Eiji's eyes track its movement with a hollow, mounting dread, his entire world narrowing down to that small piece of metal. It teeters on the edge of the grate before disappearing into the darkness below. His face pales, a cold sweat breaking across his brow as the gravity of his mistake sinks in. He is trapped, toolless, and at the mercy of whatever comes next. Eiji stands paralyzed in the hallway, the dog's persistent barking acting as a countdown to his discovery. Miles away, the men at the poker table notice the disturbance, their casual conversation taking a sharp, suspicious turn. One of them mentions that the dog is barking quite a bit, a comment that hangs heavy in the air. The contrast between the mundane card game and Eiji's life or death struggle creates a tension that is nearly unbearable. Desperate, Eiji pries open the drain cover, his fingers clawing at the metal as he searches for the lost key. His heart leaps when he spots it resting in the murky water below. He manages to retrieve the wet, cold metal, a small victory in a night of disasters. However, his relief is short-lived as the dog's barking intensifies and a new voice on his headset demands to know what is happening. The walls are closing in, and the window for escape is rapidly slamming shut. With a sharp click, the lock finally gives way under Eiji's frantic efforts. He slips inside the room just as the dog's barking reaches a fever pitch. He leans against the closed door, his chest heaving as he tries to stifle his ragged breathing. That was bad. I hope no one noticed, he thinks, his body trembling from the sheer force of the adrenaline crash. He has made it inside, but the silence of the office feels more predatory than the noise he left behind. Eiji scans the cluttered office, his eyes landing on a computer workstation and rows of filing cabinets. He reports his success in a hushed, urgent tone, but the woman on the other end offers only a backhanded compliment about his intelligence. She directs him to find a specific client list or work records, her voice cold and demanding. The mission has entered its most critical phase, and the pressure to find the information and escape undetected is a crushing weight on his shoulders. Eiji moves with a frantic, clumsy energy, his hands flying across the keyboard as he tries to bypass a login screen. His frustration mounts when he realizes he doesn't have the password, the cursor mocking his every attempt. Shit, he thinks, his eyes darting around the room for any other lead. He eventually discovers a safe tucked away in a corner, a new obstacle that promises even greater secrets, but requires a code he doesn't possess. Panic begins to truly take hold as Eiji realizes the safe uses an electronic lock. He desperately flips through stacks of books and files, hoping for a written clue or a forgotten pin. Every second that passes is a second closer to discovery. A sudden, sharp noise from the door makes his heart stop, and he spins around, his eyes wide with the realization that someone is entering the room. The trap has finally snapped shut, and he has nowhere left to hide. Eiji quickly takes a photo of the safe's lock and sends it to his contact, his voice a frantic plea for help. The woman identifies it as a complex rotary disc cylinder, a mechanism that requires immense skill to pick. When Eiji asks how long it will take, her answer 10 minutes feels like a lifetime. He knows he doesn't have that much time, and the weight of the impossible task ahead leaves him slumped in a moment of profound, desperate uncertainty. The woman proposes a destructive method called melting, which involves pouring liquid into the lock to destroy its internals. She warns that this will leave clear evidence of a break-in, a risk Eiji must weigh against his imminent capture. He hesitates, the gravity of the choice etched into the deep lines of his face. The relentless barking of the dog returns, a sharp reminder that his time has run out. He is forced to decide between a clean failure and a messy, dangerous success. A man in a lab coat calmly discusses a pricey dog's diet over the phone, unaware of the drama unfolding just a few feet away. He approaches the office door, grumbling about the animal's behavior. Inside, Eiji is frozen in terror, his face a distorted mask of panic as he hears the footsteps and the jingle of keys. The door begins to open, and the world seems to shatter around him as he faces the inevitable moment of discovery. The end has arrived, and it is more terrifying than he ever imagined. Eiji, gripped by a cold, paralyzing dread, covers his mouth to stifle his frantic breathing as a shadow looms just outside the office door. The intruder stands poised, keys clinking with a rhythmic, predatory intent that signals the end of Eiji's momentary sanctuary. Every nerve in Eiji's body screams for a way out, yet he remains pinned by the terrifying proximity of his hunter, who calmly waits for the right moment to strike. Eiji, sweating and desperate, realizes his escape is blocked as the intruder arrives at the very threshold of the office. Through a frantic comms link, a woman questions his sanity as he decides to initiate a risky Plan F, knowing full well that his presence has already been exposed. Outside, the composed man adjusts his glasses, unaware of the extreme measure Eiji is about to take, while Eiji braces himself for a gamble that could change everything. Eiji, wide-eyed and paralyzed by fear, watches the office door creak open, the intruder's silhouette framed by a blinding light that turns him into a faceless nightmare. He suppresses a gasp, his heart hammering against his ribs as he mentally pleads for his ally to hurry with their desperate countermove. The intruder steps into the room, his gaze sweeping over the desks and lockers, closing the distance between them with every measured step. Eiji shrinks into the shadows beneath a desk, his eyes wide with terror as the intruder's polished shoes click rhythmically across the floor. He holds his breath, praying the darkness and the thin veil of the furniture will keep him hidden, even as the hunter pauses just inches away. The tension is suffocating, a silent battle of nerves where even the slightest tremor could betray Eiji's position and lead to his discovery. The sudden, shrill ringing of an alarm shatters the tense silence of the office, drawing the intruder's attention toward the hallway. Outside, confused bystanders look around in shock, their concern mirroring the frantic flashing of the emergency lights. Eiji's allies watch the chaos unfold from the safety of the elevator, their faces etched with a grim determination as the diversion they set in motion begins to take effect. Above the mounting chaos, a sprinkler head activates, raining down a fine mist that further disorientates the crowd. A woman in a dark hoodie stands amidst the fleeing people, a faint, knowing look in her eyes as she confirms that the diversion is complete. The rest is up to you, she thinks, passing the torch to Eiji as the building descends into a carefully orchestrated panic, providing him with the slim window of opportunity he needs. Eiji, relieved and slightly shaken, receives a mysterious liquid from his ally, realizing just how close he came to being caught. He marvels at the specialized skills of the woman's family, from firework technicians to professional burglars, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and awe for their unconventional support. That's quite some family, he reflects, a weary smile touching his lips as he prepares to finish the task they risked so much to help him with. The man in the white suit stares in confusion at the strange, smouldering tubes taped to the walls, realizing the fireworks were part of an elaborate ruse. His associates are equally baffled and enraged, their initial shock turning into a cold, vengeful determination to find the person responsible for such a blatant mockery of their security. The realization that they have been played sits heavy in the air, fueling a dangerous desire for retribution. The man in the white suit scans the hallway with a suspicious gaze, his mind racing as he tries to pinpoint where Eiji could have vanished. He returns to the office, flicking on the lights to find it seemingly empty, yet the lingering sense of a recent presence remains. Every corner and shadow is a potential hiding spot, and his frustration grows as he realizes his quarry might have slipped through his fingers under the cover of the chaos. The intruder pauses, his nose twitching at a sharp, chemical odor that shouldn't be in the office. His eyes narrow behind his glasses as his gaze falls upon a locker, specifically the keyhole, which appears altered. A sense of unease settles over him as he reaches into his pocket, his intuition screaming that something vital has been tampered with right under his nose. He moves with a newfound urgency, sensing the true purpose behind the diversion. The man's composure shatters as he pulls a camera from the locker and discovers the SD card slot is empty. A cold realization washes over him, his eyes widening in shock and fury as he stares at the vacant space where his leverage once sat, gone. He realizes the weight of his failure pressing down on him as he understands that despite all his precautions, he has been outmaneuvered and robbed of his most valuable prize. Eiji feigns innocence, spinning a story about getting lost while looking for the washroom, but the man in the white suit isn't buying it. He looms over Eiji, his gaze sharp and accusatory, silently calculating the cost of the boy's supposed blunder. As he looks out over the bright lights of the city, a sinking feeling takes hold, a suspicion that the boy's presence was no mere accident, but part of a much larger, more dangerous game. In the quiet of a private karaoke room, Eiji finally catches his breath, safe for a moment from the prying eyes of his pursuers. His ally, ever practical, notes that while they have gained a significant reward, the risk has painted a target on their backs. Eiji gazes at the 32GB SD card in his hand, its surface gleaming under the neon lights, a small piece of plastic that represents both their greatest victory and their most dangerous burden. Eiji and his ally begin to sift through the stolen data, discovering secret recordings that expose a web of blackmail and extortion involving high-profile clients. Among the files, they find disturbing photos of a woman named Hotonoka Yako, taken just weeks before her disappearance. One man appears in every image with her, his stern, middle-aged face a chilling constant that hints at a dark connection between the victim and a powerful figure. The tension in the room spikes as a specific name appears on the screen, Shirabishi Shato. Eiji's heart skips a beat, his eyes fixed on the man's name as his ally watches him with a piercing, knowing gaze. "You recognize him?" she asks, her voice barely a whisper. Eiji's expression is a mask of shock and dawning horror, the name acting as a key that unlocks a terrifying connection he never expected to find. Eiji stares at a digital report from the line's incident, his breath hitching as he sees a photo of a young woman named Shirabishi Rin. She was one of the victims, a life cut tragically short at only 18. The sight of her smiling face, frozen in a time of innocence, fills Eiji with a profound sense of grief and a staggering realization of the human cost behind the cold data they just uncovered. The grim details of the tragedy unfold before Eiji's eyes: the daughter's identification among the corpses, the mother's subsequent suicide, and the father, Shadow, left as the sole survivor. His ally delivers the final, devastating blow. "This sugar daddy is the father of one of the women that your father killed 15 years ago." Eiji is left reeling, the sins of his father and the pain of the victims colliding in a horrific revelation. A haunting photograph from an entrance ceremony shows a family once whole, a smiling father and his radiant daughter, blissfully unaware of the tragedy that would soon destroy them. It is a poignant reminder of a life stolen by the line's incident, a legacy of grief that has now intertwined itself with Eiji's own. As the chapter ends, the weight of the past hangs heavy, leaving Eiji to face a reality where the lines between hunter and victim are blurred beyond recognition. Suspicion clouded Eiji's mind as he stared at the digital file of Shirabishi Shato, a man whose daughter fell victim to the original lines. The air in the room grew heavy with the weight of a single, haunting word: revenge. If this man was the one who killed Hotonoka Yako, his motive was born from 15 years of festering grief. Eiji looked at his partner, the possibility that they were hunting a man driven by the purest form of justice turning his blood to ice. Doubts gnawed at Eiji as he struggled to maintain his composure. Why would a father wait over a decade to act, only to strike now? He clenched his teeth in frustration, his mind spiraling into a maze of speculation. But a voice of cold reason cut through his panic, reminding him that the truth wouldn't be found in guesses. There was only one way forward. They had to track down Shirabishi Shato and hear the motive from the man's own mouth before time ran out. The search reached a sudden, jarring end as Shirabishi's university profile appeared on the screen. He was a lecturer in education, a seemingly ordinary man hiding in plain sight. Eiji's eyes widened, sweat beading on his brow as the proximity of his target became terrifyingly clear. With the university right in the heart of the region, the confrontation he both sought and feared was no longer a distant possibility, it was a meeting that could happen today. Sigh. Amidst the clinical stillness of the break-in scene, the investigator delivered a chilling report. The safe hadn't been touched, the only thing taken was a single SD card. Sai listened through the phone, his expression a mask of calculation as the headlights of a car cut through the dark night outside. The surgical precision of the theft pointed to one person. The name Urashima Eiji was no longer just a lead. It was the center of a rapidly tightening web. Sai, inside the car, Sai's mind was a whirlwind of dark connections. He remembered the suspicious reaction Eiji had during the purge of a traitorous slip of the mask that now seemed like a glaring confession. The fact that Hotta no Kayako had been the one to introduce them felt less like chance and more like a calculated move in a much larger game. He had been testing the boy all along, and the results were finally pointing toward a truth more dangerous than he imagined. Oikawa, a brazen challenge arrived in the form of a handwritten note, a declaration of war from the son of the legendary killer lines. Oikawa's face contorted with rage as he read the words, his voice a snarl as he demanded they retaliate against the brat who dared to provoke them. But as they sped down the highway, Sai remained chillingly composed, his silence a stark contrast to the volatile anger brewing in the back seat. Sai, a predatory smile touched Sai's lips as he held the evidence of Eiji's defiance. He wasn't worried, in fact, he felt a surge of cold satisfaction. Every move, every provocation was falling exactly as he had planned. As the calendar marked the morning of November 8th, the university campus loomed ahead like a trap waiting to be sprung. He had it all worked out, and he was ready to watch the pieces of his grand design finally click into place. Standing before the imposing silhouette of Block 12, Eiji felt the crushing weight of exhaustion. He coordinated with his partner over the phone, tracing the path to Shirabishi's lab while his vision blurred at the edges. He had been standing guard in the shadows, his body screaming for rest that would never come. 8 o'clock was the designated hour, a deadline that felt like a death sentence as he prepared to step into the lion's den alone. Eiji, the shadows of the campus offered no refuge as Eiji fought a desperate battle against his own body. He had been awake for over 40 hours, and the world was beginning to dissolve into a hazy, distorted dreamscape. He rubbed his stinging eyes, his focus slipping as the fatigue threatened to pull him under. He was reaching his absolute limit, his mind a frayed wire held together only by the sheer, desperate need to see this through to the end. Eiji, the rhythmic buzzing of Eiji's phone felt like a physical blow, the screen glowing with a call from his father that he couldn't bring himself to answer. Miles away, his parents sat in the suffocating silence of their living room, their faces etched with a whirring that had become a permanent resident. Eiji stared at the device, a ghost in his own life, torn between the familial love he was abandoning and the dark destiny that was now his only reality. Momoi. The arrival of Detective Momoi at the Urashima home brought the cold reality of the investigation to their doorstep. She stood in the entryway, her gaze professional yet heavy with the burden of her message. They needed to be notified the moment Eiji made contact, a request that hung in the air like an unspoken threat. The parents could only watch in stunned silence as the police turned their world upside down, their son now a figure fleeing in the dark. Momoi. Detective Momoi's voice was a sharp blade as she warned Eiji's father not to repeat the history of 15 years ago. She invoked the name of the monster Hachinoi Makoto, a ghost that still haunted the halls of justice, suggesting that Eiji was walking the same blood-soaked path. But the father remained unyielding, his face set in a mask of defensive pride. To him, Eiji wasn't the legacy of a killer. He was a son who deserved his father's unwavering belief. Momoi, is there a parent who doesn't believe in their children? The question was a final, desperate shield against the detective's accusations. As Momoi walked away from the house, the weight of the past felt heavier than ever. From an upstairs window, a silent figure watched the police depart, a secret observer to the parents' grief. The gap between judgment and a family's hope had become an unbridgeable chasm, leaving Eiji isolated in a storm of his own making. Oto-chan, in the dim glow of her computer screen, the girl stared in horror at the digital vitriol being spewed across the forums. The headlines were a nightmare, kidnappings, torture, and the chilling imitation of the line's murders. Every anonymous comment branding Eiji as a monster felt like a personal betrayal. Her breath hitched as she scrolled through the threads, the reality of the situation crashing down. The boy she knew was being erased by the legend of a murderer. Eiji, the morning sun brought a parade of cheerful students to the campus, their laughter a cruel mockery of Eiji's inner turmoil. He checked his watch with trembling hands. 8 o'clock had arrived, but the target was nowhere to be seen. Anxiety gnawed at his stomach as he scanned the crowds, his eyes searching for a face that refused to appear. He was a shadow among the living, a ghost waiting for a man who seemed to have vanished into thin air. Eiji, a sudden, heavy presence behind him shattered Eiji's focus, sending a jolt of pure terror through his exhausted body. He spun around, his heart leaping into his throat as he found himself staring directly at the man he had been hunting. Shirabishi Shato stood there, his expression grim and unreadable. The world seemed to stop as the predator and the prey finally met, the quiet campus morning suddenly charged with the lethal energy of a long-awaited confrontation. Shirabishi, the lecturer, stared at Eiji as if seeing a ghost, his expression a mask of grim, silent shock. Neither of them moved, caught in a frozen moment of mutual recognition that transcended words. The air was thick with a tension so sharp it felt physical, a silent scream of disbelief echoing in the space between them as the reality of their meeting finally took hold. Shirobishi's face was twisted in a grimace of pain, blood trickling from a fresh wound on his mouth as he gasped down Eiji's name. The sight of the man in such a battered state sent Eiji's mind into a tailspin, his eyes wide with a fear that matched the lecturer's own. This wasn't the powerful adversary he had imagined, but a man broken and bleeding, his presence a jarring omen of a situation that had spiraled far beyond their control. Shirobishi, through his gasps of pain, Shirobishi's voice trembled with a question that felt like a confession. They had promised a sacred pact never to meet again, and yet here Eiji stood, breaking the silence that was supposed to protect them both. The lecturer's eyes searched Eiji's face, looking for an answer he was terrified to find. The mystery of their connection deepened with every word, revealing a bond forged in secrets that were never meant to see the light. Eiji, the final, horrific realization struck Eiji like a physical blow as the lecturer's words hung in the air. The question was a death knell. Had the world finally discovered their secret? Had the mask slipped, revealing the truth they had both worked so hard to bury? As they stood together in the morning light, the reality was inescapable. They were no longer just observers of the darkness, they were the very ones who had created it. Shirobishi confronts Eiji with a chilling realization. He questions if Eiji is wearing a disguise and ponders if it's too late for them to run. A dark shadow of suspicion falls over them as Shirobishi wonders if they actually murdered Hotonoka Yako. Eiji stares back, his face a mask of shock and growing dread, the weight of the accusation hanging heavily in the silent park. Panic erupts as Eiji grabs Shirobishi, his voice trembling as he denies the accusation. He reminds Shirobishi that they were supposedly the ones who stole 60 million yen from the dangerous organization known as School. Shadows of masked figures loom in their minds, representing the terrifying threat that is now closing in on them. Confusion clouds Eiji's mind as he struggles to remember why they stole from school. He looks at Shirobishi with wide, desperate eyes, insisting that he only followed Shirobishi's plan. Shirobishi watches him, his expression unreadable, as Eiji's stuttering reveals the deep fracture in his memory and his growing terror of the situation they created. Shirobishi pushes Eiji to remember the dark vow he once made, to smash the organization's school to bits. Eiji clutches his head, the memory flickering just out of reach. The silence of the school building behind them mirrors the cold determination in Shirobishi's gaze as he forces Eiji to face a past he has seemingly forgotten. Shirobishi's words are a relentless hammer, reminding Eiji that his original mission was to destroy school and save Yako. He laments that Yako was killed despite their efforts. Eiji's eyes widen in sheer disbelief as Shirobishi mentions reporting a man named Sai to the police, a name that triggers a fresh wave of panic and confusion in Eiji's fractured mind. The name Sai Yoshiro hangs in the air like a death sentence. Shirobishi reveals his long-held desire to report him for Yako's murder. They stand in the dimly lit path, the trees closing in like spectators to their grim conversation. Shirobishi's resolve is absolute, a stark contrast to Eiji's visible agitation as the truth of the murder begins to surface. Eiji is haunted by a grotesque, nightmarish image of a man driven to the brink of madness. Shirobishi's voice cuts through the horror, insisting that Sai Yoshiro is far too dangerous and should have been reported long ago. Eiji's gaze is fixed and haunted as he tries to reconcile the man he knows with the monster Shirobishi describes from the day Yako vanished. A sudden, agonizing pain flares in Eiji's head, causing him to cry out and collapse. He struggles to explain that his memories are a jagged mess of torture and trauma from his time with school. He recalls being struck with an iron bar, the hidden scars under his head a physical testament to his suffering. Shirobishi watches with a mix of concern and calculating intensity. Eiji desperately tries to regain his composure, insisting that stopping Sai Yoshiro is the only thing that matters. He pleads with Shirobishi to understand the gravity of the threat. Around them, others look on in silence as Eiji's internal struggle becomes a public display of desperation. Shirobishi finally agrees, though a shadow of doubt still lingers in his eyes. Shirobishi begins to systematically deconstruct the night of October 16th. He recounts how Yako went to meet Eiji, but Eiji's memory of the encounter is a complete blank. Eiji's eyes search Shirobishi's face for answers, but he finds only a grim reflection of his own lost time. The mystery of what truly transpired that night remains a dark, impenetrable void between them. The memory shifts to a secret location, Hotel Wyan, where a knock on the door changes everything. Shirobishi recalls the moment Eiji arrived, finding both him and Yako together. The past feels vivid and heavy as the narrative returns to the quiet hotel room, where the first seeds of their complicated and tragic alliance were sown. Shirobisshi recalls their first meeting, fueled by warnings Yako had given him about a creep following her. He describes a moment of intense physical confrontation, Eiji's hand gripping his throat as he struggled to explain his actions. The tension of that initial encounter echoes in the present, a reminder of the violence and suspicion that have always defined their relationship. Amidst the struggle, Shirobishi reveals his true purpose. He is investigating school, an organization that has inherited the dark legacy of the serial killer lines. The revelation leaves the room silent as he gasps for air, recounting how LL used his prostitution ring to select victims. The horror of the past is laid bare, connecting their current struggle to a much older, deeper evil. Shirobishi's voice rises in a crescendo of fury as he describes his 15-year pursuit of the hidden client list that was buried after LL's suicide. He refuses to let the truth remain in the darkness. His face is contorted with a righteous rage, the memory of the spine-chilling crimes driving him toward a confrontation with the organization that still carries LL's legacy. A father's raw, unfiltered grief erupts as Shirabishi vows retribution for his daughter. He believes her soul is tainted and can never be saved until those who preyed upon her are brought to justice. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated pain and hatred, a man who has lost everything and is now fueled only by the cold fire of revenge. Eiji listens in silence as the pieces of the tragedy fall into place. He learns that all of LL's victims, including Shirabishi's daughter, were caught in a web of prostitution. The weight of the 15-year-old mystery settles on him as he looks at the images of the young women whose lives were destroyed. The legacy of lines is a shadow that stretches far beyond the grave. Eiji realizes with a start that Shirabishi's revenge is far from over. He begins to wonder if Shirabishi even knows his true identity, that he is the son of the very man Shirabishi hates most. A cold sweat breaks out as he considers the possibility that their alliance is built on a foundation of lies and that his life could be forfeit if the truth ever surfaces. Shirabishi meticulously maps out the timeline of that fateful night. He recalls Yako leaving the hotel room at 11 p.m. to meet a friend, leaving him and Eiji to discuss their investigation into school. Every detail, from the hotel room to the car park, is recounted with clinical precision, creating a framework for a night that ended in blood and shattered lives. The memory takes a terrifying turn in the hotel's basement car park. Shirabishi describes a sudden, jarring encounter that left his clothes stained. The sound of a ringing phone call from Nomi cuts through the darkness, leading to a discovery that would haunt them forever. Eiji's eyes are wide with the reflected horror of a truth he is finally being forced to see. The nightmare is fully realized as they find Yako, blood-streaked and broken, on the cold concrete of the car park. Her shattered phone lies nearby, a silent witness to her final moments. The sheer brutality of the scene is overwhelming, a visceral reminder of the stakes they are playing for and the monster they are hunting. The true face of their enemy is revealed as Sayoshiro drags Yako's body away. He is a man marked by the dark symbols of school, his back bearing a chilling tattoo that declares his intent to kill again. The image of the skull and the skeletal remains on his skin is a final, terrifying promise of the violence that is yet to come in their desperate quest for justice. Sayoshiro stands in the dim light of a parking lot, his silhouette framed by an open trunk as he looks back with a chilling, detached expression. In another moment, a man in a car reaches out, his hand hesitating in the air as he considers a move that never comes. Beneath it all, a large, tattooed man sneers with brutal contempt, his face contorted into a mask of mockery. Too soft, he thinks, dismissing his opponent with a final, insulting thought. Dumbass. In a moment of frantic desperation, a man huddles in the shadows of a parking garage, his hands trembling as he struggles to suppress his own breathing. He watches through his phone's camera, capturing the menacing figure of a man with an elaborate skull and crossbones tattoo across his back. The screen displays the haunting promise, "I shall kill again," a chilling declaration that burns into the observer's mind as he realizes the magnitude of the horror he's just witnessed. Eiji stares at his phone with a look of dazed disbelief, the realization of the truth finally setting in as he identifies Sayoshiro as the culprit. His mind begins to churn through the dark concept of hybristophilia, the twisted attraction some feel for notorious serial killers. He recalls the disturbing devotion shown to figures like Charles Manson, who received thousands of letters even while behind bars, realizing the same dangerous obsession is at play here. Eiji's mind races as he links Sayoshiro's actions to the dark legacy of the Zodiac Killer, specifically the imitator Haribato Sadath, standing in the cold night air. He begins to see the patterns of prostitution, torture, and murder that define the group known as School. The connection between Sai and the mysterious lines becomes undeniably clear. "You don't remember that either," a ... double quotes he thinks, realizing the deep, forgotten links that are starting to resurface. Eiji stares intently at the glowing screen of his phone, his finger tracing the image of a man's back. The words "I shall kill again" are etched into the skin in a macabre tattoo that makes his blood run cold. He reads the English letters slowly, the meaning gradually sinking in until the full horror of the message hits him. His eyes widen in a sudden, sharp realization of what he is truly looking at, a literal vow of murder that confirms his worst fears. The screen of the phone becomes a blur of dark, scratchy textures as Eiji's mind fixates on the haunting phrase "I shall kill again." The words seem to vibrate with a life of their own, echoing the sinister intent of their owner. Eiji's eye, visible through his glasses, is wide with a dawning, terrifying clarity. Oh, he realizes, the pieces of the puzzle finally snapping together into a picture of pure, unadulterated malice that he can no longer ignore. The word "school" looms in Eiji's mind, rendered in a sharp, aggressive font that mirrors the brutality of the group. It is intertwined with the name Sai, creating an inescapable link between the man and the cult of violence. Eiji stares at his device, sweat beading on his forehead as the weight of the discovery presses down on him. The connection between the tattoo, the group, and the culprit is now absolute, and the name "School" rings like a death knell in his thoughts. Eiji is haunted by the image of a severed ear, a grotesque trophy that only the true culprit could have possessed. He wonders with growing dread how it ended up with B1 and whether Sai was the one who surreptitiously slipped it into his pocket. The chilling realization that Sai, School, and the legend of lines are all part of a single, dark tapestry begins to overwhelm him. He suspects Sai may have infiltrated the group solely to investigate this terrifying connection. Eiji stands beneath the harsh, cold glare of a street lamp, his mind heavy with the weight of the video evidence. He considers turning it all over to the police, hoping that Sai's arrest will finally put an end to this nightmare. Suddenly, his phone vibrates with an incoming call from Kashiwagi, which he quickly rejects. Now's not a good time, he thinks. However, the tension spikes as a message notification appears immediately after, indicating a video message has been sent. Eiji's face is tight with tension as he gazes at his phone, the passage of many hours ago weighing heavily on the atmosphere. The scene shifts to the bright, sterile environment of a convenience store at night, its neon lights cutting through the darkness of the surrounding parking lot. The transition marks a jump back in time, setting the stage for the events that led to the current crisis, with the store standing as a lonely beacon in the quiet, urban landscape. Inside the convenience store, Okozaki proudly shows off a new anchor tattoo on his arm to his co-worker, Kashiwagi. He grins with a sense of street-tough bravado, laughing off the idea of it being a fashion statement. Kashiwagi warns him about the manager's reaction, but the light-hearted atmosphere is suddenly cut short by the chime of the door. Both men turn their attention toward the entrance, their casual banter dying away as a new, formidable presence enters the shop. A group of menacing men from school enters the store, led by a stern, bald man with elaborate skeletal tattoos covering his arms. Their presence is immediate and suffocating, instantly draining the color and warmth from the room. Kashiwagi and Okozaki stand frozen behind the counter, their earlier bravado replaced by a palpable sense of fear. The leader's cold, piercing gaze sweeps over them, making it clear that their routine night has just taken a turn for the worse. The leader of the group demands deep-fried snacks, his tone dripping with casual menace as he points toward the display. When Okozaki offers to cook more, the man's demand turns darker. He orders the clerk, he calls Piggy to the back to disable the store's CCTV cameras. A chilling choice is presented, defy the manager or face the wrath of the gang. The sound of the deep fryer hissing in the background only adds to the suffocating tension as the boys realize they have no way out. The interrogation begins as the gang leader leans over the counter, asking if they know anyone by the name of Eiji Urashima. Okozaki feigns ignorance, but the leader doesn't buy it, claiming they heard he and Eiji were best buddies. The arrival of a long-haired, hooded figure known as Hound adds another layer of dread to the scene. A slow, predatory smile spreads across the leader's face as he corners his prey, his eyes fixed on Okozaki with terrifying intensity. The long-haired man, Hound, pulls a live rat from a bag, dangled by its tail as it squeaks in terror. He approaches Okozaki with a sickeningly calm demeanor, holding the struggling animal right in front of the boy's terrified face. The close-up on Hound's eye reveals a cold, detached curiosity, contrasting sharply with Okozaki's wide-eyed horror. The sound of the rat's frantic squeaking fills the air, a precursor to the sadistic act about to be performed. Without a hint of hesitation, the gang member drops the squeaking rat into the bubbling oil of the deep fryer. The creature's frantic cries are drowned out by the violent hiss of the fat as the man leans in close to Okozaki, his voice a low, terrifying whisper. "Where does Urashima Eiji stay?" he asks, his face partially obscured by his long hair. The smell of burning flesh and the sound of the fryer create a scene of visceral, stomach-turning cruelty designed to break any resolve. The torment continues as the man leans in, his smile widening as he asks about Eiji's family, siblings, or even a girlfriend. He holds the handle of the fryer basket with a casual grip, the implied threat of the boiling oil always present. Okozaki is paralyzed by fear, his face pale and sweating as he stares at the gang members' cold, mocking eyes. The constant, high-pitched squeaking of the dying rat serves as a rhythmic, psychological hammer, driving the boy toward a total breaking point. Okozaki gagging in revulsion, the horror of the situation finally overcoming him as he clutches his mouth. The gang leader watches with a smug, satisfied expression, offering a deep-fried rat as a twisted prize for his cooperation. He leans over the counter, asking if any answers have come to mind yet. The juxtaposition of the casual, almost bored demeanor of the gang members with the extreme violence they've just committed creates an atmosphere of pure, unpredictable terror. The leader signals that it's time for the next dish, his voice light as if he were a waiter in a restaurant. Behind him, another gang member steps forward holding a small, tabby cat that is let out a desperate, piteous meow. The camera focuses on Okozaki's face, which is now a mask of absolute, soul-crushing despair. The realization that they are willing to escalate their cruelty to an innocent animal is the final blow, pushing the young man beyond the limits of his endurance. The video message on Eiji's phone shows the gang leader standing in a dark alleyway, mocking Eiji for not picking up his call. He reveals that they've learned everything about Eiji's life from his buddy Kashiwagi, including the family that adopted him. He then brings up a picture of Eiji's girlfriend, Hyuki Yukimura, on a second phone, his tone full of predatory intent. Eiji watches with mounting horror as the safety of everyone he loves is systematically stripped away by a smiling monster. The gang leader pretends to be hurt, mocking Eiji's betrayal, then suddenly explodes into bug-eyed rage, accusing him of being the rat who stole from them. He yells for Eiji to respond, then laughs, remembering it's just a recording. Watching the screen, Eiji sweats as the leader leaves one final, chilling line. He hopes Eiji will one day feel the same pain in his heart. The scene concludes with a chilling, extreme close-up on the gang leader's eyes, which are wide and filled with a manic, obsessive fire. His final words hang in the air like a death sentence, a cold promise that he will destroy everything Eiji loves, one by one. The intensity of his gaze is suffocating, leaving no doubt about the sincerity of his threat. As the screen fades, the weight of the coming destruction settles over Eiji, leaving him alone in the dark with his own terror.